imagine spending endless hours in your favorite virtual world, learning every path, uncovering every secret, basically eating, breathing, and living the game like it was your actual life. But the destiny decides to be a real jerk and drags you into that same world. But not as some heroic gamer, but as a captive in a maze that's basically laughing at you while keeping freedom just out of reach. And then, as if things weren't already ridiculous, a banned ability pops up, the power to stop time. And that's just the start. The maze gets worse. The price of power gets uglier, and freedom? Yeah, it's gonna cost more than just a few lives. It's gonna cost blood. The story opens in spectacular fashion, right in the middle of a final showdown. A powerful maze master stands his ground against 4 challengers, radiating confidence as if victory is already guaranteed. But one challenger steps forward without hesitation, our main character. Calm, almost bored, he raises his magic wand and delivers a silent message to his opponent. This fight is already decided. Without warning, the wand erupts, unleashing a colossal wave of fire that surges forward like a living inferno. The maze master reacts instantly, slamming 3 glowing magical barrier circles into place. They shimmer with defensive power, stacked tightly together. The fire crashes into them, and they collapse almost instantly, shattering one after another as if they were made of glass. The flames do not slow down. They tear through the last defense and completely engulf the maze master, erasing him from existence in a violent burst of heat and light. As the explosion fades, the screen fills with system text. A clear message appears congratulating the player for completing Abyss of the Labyrinth, and not just on normal difficulty, but on insane mode. Victory music plays softly in the background. Sitting in front of the screen, the player leans back with a satisfied smirk. A thought crosses his mind. This run was clean. Maybe I should upload it to YouTube. Before he can act on the idea, another notification pops up. The game offers him a chance to try developer mode. His interest is immediately piqued. His mage character is already absurdly powerful, but developer mode promises additional abilities, mechanics beyond what normal players can access. To him, that only means one thing: absolute chaos. Curious, he opens his character's stat window. What he sees makes him pause. The screen is empty. No strength, no agility, no intelligence, nothing at all. For a moment, he wonders if the game bugged out. Shrugging, he decides to assign all 10 available stat points into wisdom. If brute force is not an option, he'll outthink everything. After all, wisdom affects spell control, perception, and decision-making. But the moment the game finishes loading, something goes terribly wrong. His monitor erupts in blinding white light, so intense it floods his entire apartment. The glow swallows his vision, and then everything goes black. When he opens his eyes again, he hears shouting. A harsh voice yells at him to stand straight and stop acting suspicious. Confused, he smiles faintly, convinced this is just an extremely vivid dream. After all, the last thing he remembers is gaming. But the man in front of him does not appreciate the smile. He shoves him hard, sending him crashing to the ground. Pain explodes through his body. Real, sharp, undeniable. That's when he notices it. A faint blue magical circle hovering in front of a group of people just like him. Fear tightens in his chest. An elderly bald man steps forward, his expression cold and authoritative. He announces that they are criminals, stripped of their rights and turned into slaves. Each of them is handed a magic wand. Their punishment is simple: enter the labyrinth. If they survive and earn enough money, they can buy back their freedom. Those who perform exceptionally well might even be allowed to enroll in the Magic Academy. As the old man speaks, dread settles over the group. Our protagonist feels his blood run cold. Every word matches the game perfectly. Every detail, every rule, he's seen this before. Reality hits him like a punch to the gut. He's not dreaming. Somehow, impossibly, he's inside his favorite game. His face goes pale as the truth sinks in. But there's no time to panic. They're already being forced forward, deeper into a dark, twisted labyrinth that smells of death. As they move, he checks his surroundings and gathers himself. He learns that his character's name here is Kale. The dungeon is exactly as he remembers, packed with monsters that look like they crawled straight out of comic books and nightmares. He forces himself to stay calm and begins observing the others, instinctively analyzing their stats and behaviors. One of the slaves immediately stands out, urinal, a terrifying woman whose eyes are filled with dangerous lust-driven intent. Another slave suddenly begins screaming. He claims to have received a divine oracle, a vision of how everyone here is going to die. His sanity crumbles in real time as he shouts about blood and slaughter. The group freezes in fear. Before his rant can even finish, chaos erupts. A fat man at the back completely loses control and bolts forward, running blindly through the corridor. A split second later, a sharp blade flashes, and he's cut down instantly. His body collapses, blood spreading across the cold stone floor. Everyone stares in horror, frozen by the sudden brutality. Then something worse appears. A goblin steps out of the darkness, its grin wide and disturbing. Wide and disturbing? The oracle slave suddenly starts laughing hysterically, thrilled that his prediction is already coming true. His laughter ends abruptly when an arrow pierces his face, dropping him lifeless to the ground. More goblins emerge, their smiles unnaturally wide, teeth gleaming as if they're enjoying this far too much. The elf girl among the slaves trembles, eyes wide with terror. Calum feels the same fear clawing at his chest. He knows they could die at any moment. The goblins charge. One swings its weapon with terrifying speed, aiming straight for Callum's neck. Just before the blade connects, the world freezes. A translucent hourglass appears before his eyes. Emergency skill activated. Time freeze 60 seconds. Everything stops. The goblin hangs midair, weapon inches from his throat. Calum stares in disbelief. This has to be the new developer ability. There's no time to marvel. He has 1 minute to act. He raises his wand to block the attack, but a system warning flashes. 1 action point consumed. That irritates him until another prompt appears, suggesting a fireball spell based on his high wisdom. His eyes widen. The system accepts live command input. Quickly, he adjusts his aim. Another point gone. He fine-tunes the target. Another point disappears. When the system warns him he's out of points, he does not hesitate. Time is about to resume. The countdown hits 0. The time freeze ends and the skill ender's cooldown. Flames rapidly condense at the tip of his wand just as the goblins start moving again. A split second later, fire explodes outward, engulfing them completely. The blast nearly erases them from existence. The silence follows. The elf girl stares in shock. Calum exhales sharply, his body trembling as he realizes how close he came to death. He steadies himself. He knows this game. He knows mages better than anyone. If he wants to survive, he needs allies and a way out. Turning to Yurnell, he asks what type of magic her wand uses. Shaking, she answers, "It's lightning." He tells her to use it. There's no choice anymore. Calum does not know who dragged him into this world or why. But one thing is certain. Whoever did this has made a terrible mistake, and they're going to regret it. Several years ago, the world changed forever. Without warning, a colossal labyrinth surfaced, tearing through reality like a wound that refused to heal. From its depths poured endless monsters, each more grotesque than the last. Cities fell into chaos, nations trembled, and countless adventurers and mages lost their lives trying to push back the tide. Humanity fought desperately, but victory never came without sacrifice. To survive, the powerful devised a cruel solution. Instead of wasting trained soldiers, they began throwing slaves into the labyrinth. Those who died were deemed weak and disposable. Those who survived became hardened explorers, forged by fear and blood. That, at least, was the story the game told. Calum walks forward with measured steps, replaying that information in his mind. He is not foolish enough to believe everything at face value. This world might resemble the game he knows, but reality has a habit of twisting familiar rules. One wrong assumption could get him killed. Beside him walks the blonde elf girl. After several minutes of awkward silence, she finally speaks, her voice hesitant. She introduces herself as Yurnell. Calum gives his name in return, keeping his tone neutral. The two continue side by side, the air between them stiff and uneasy. Yurnell glances at him and speaks again, trying to sound casual. She mentions that Calum talked a lot back on the ship, yet now he seems strangely quiet. Her words spark an alarm in his mind. That means there are others here who might recognize him, or at least the version of him that existed before this nightmare began. If that's true, he needs to be careful about what he says and does. When he does not respond, Yurnell nervously starts talking about herself. She explains how she was enslaved after being falsely accused of possessing illegal drugs. The injustice still lingers in her voice, mixed with fear and bitterness. Calum senses how shaken she is and quietly tells her to stop talking for now. Sound carries far in the labyrinth, and unnecessary conversation can be deadly. Just as the words leave his mouth, a familiar symbol flashes before his eyes. An hourglass appears. The countdown begins. Calum's heartbeat spikes. He has not stepped on anything obvious, so why has the system activated it? He forces himself to stay calm. On the first floor, traps are usually simple. Arrows shooting from walls, blades springing out, or mechanisms triggered by pressure. He immediately scans the walls on Urinal's side. That narrows it down. The danger must be beneath them, a floor-based trap. His mind races through the possibilities: spike traps, explosive nails, poison gas, collapsing tiles. The hourglass gives him just enough time to analyze, but not enough to fully prepare. That's the cruel balance of the system. He makes a quick decision. Stepping forward carefully, he moves with Urinal at his side. That's when disaster strikes. Urinal stumbles slightly and bumps into his foot. Losing her balance, she steps down harder than intended. Click. Calum's eyes widen. He instantly recognizes the sound. He explains he has stepped on a trap while saving her. The trap is not triggered yet, but it will the moment he lifts his foot. Panic floods Urinal's face as she asks what she should do. Calum tells her to find something heavy, the oak barrel they saw earlier, and bring it back. His plan is simple. Replace his weight with another object while he presses the same tile to keep the mechanism locked. She nods and runs off. Minutes pass. Then more minutes. 30 minutes crawl by, each second stretching his nerves tighter. She does not return. Calum's thoughts spiral. Maybe she triggered another trap. Maybe a monster got her. A darker thought creeps in. Maybe she abandoned him. For a moment, selfish logic whispers in his mind. Leaving would be safer. Survival comes first. Then a voice echoes down the corridor. It's Urinal. She appears drenched in sweat, somehow pushing a massive barrel toward him. Relief washes over him. Together, they carefully position the barrel on the pressure plate. Once the weight transfers, Calum steps back and raises his wand and says, "Move." Telekinesis activates. The barrel slides away, and instantly the floor erupts in a violent explosion. Stone shatters, dust fills the air, and the trap reveals its true lethality. Calum exhales slowly. This place is not just filled with monsters. It's designed to kill careless people. A glowing screen appears before him, awarding stat points for surviving the encounter. Without hesitation, he dumps every single point into wisdom. No debate, no regret. If he's going to live, he needs maximum control and awareness. They continue forward. It's only the first floor, so Calum allows himself a small sense of calm. This is the perfect opportunity to experiment. He wants to fully understand how the hourglass works and how spell casting consumes action points. Right on cue, a goblin steps into view. Calum does not flinch. But the goblin's grin stretches unnaturally wide as more of its kind emerge, each holding a bow. Ranged weapons. That's annoying, but not enough to worry him. He activates the hourglass. Time freezes. The familiar countdown begins. He casts Fireball. One action point disappears. Flames roar from the tip of his wand, frozen in space as they race toward their targets. When time resumes, the fire crashes into the goblins, incinerating them instantly. Their bodies collapse, smoking and lifeless. Calum blinks. He quickly calculates. In a single turn, he could cast 4 fireballs. The realization sends a thrill through him. He's not just a mage anymore. He's a walking catastrophe. Urinal stares at him in shock. She mutters that he's using rapid casting and chantless magic simultaneously. Abilities so rare they're practically legendary. Then her expression dims. She looks down, clearly comparing herself to him and finding the gap painful. Calum studies her quietly. She's still an elf. That alone means untapped potential. He asks her how far she can jump. She thinks, then answers hesitantly, about 4 meters. That surprises him. Her agility is much higher than it should be. Without hesitation, he hands her a bow and tells her to try it. She accepts it with visible excitement, admitting she's used one before and feels comfortable with it. Calum decides quickly. She'll guard the rear with the bow. He'll take her staff for now. Urinal agrees without hesitation, her confidence slowly returning. Suddenly, she stiffens. She senses something approaching. They look around, but the corridor is empty. Calum tells her to close her eyes. He tosses several small objects onto the ground. Without opening them, she accurately identifies how many fell and how far away each landed. Kalem's suspicions are confirmed. She's heightened auditory perception, an ability to detect movement through sound. Then she speaks again, her voice tense. 4 people are running toward them. Kalem's stomach tightens. Any surviving group in the labyrinth is dangerous. Allies are rare. Betrayal is common. They quickly move into a corner and hide, listening to the footsteps grow closer. Sweat beads on his skin as he weighs his options. Finally, he steps out, staff raised. He demands to know why they're following them. A bald man steps forward and smirks. He claims they have no conflict with Kalem. Then his eyes slide toward Urnell. He says calmly, "We'll walk away." The bald man steps forward with an arrogant grin, clearly enjoying the fear on their faces. He casually explains that fighting them is pointless. Their weapons, he claims, won't even scratch his magical shield. With that same disgusting confidence, he makes another offer. Kalem should join them. Together they can survive, and as for the elf, they can share. Urnell trembles beside Kalem, her fingers tightening around her bow. She calls his name softly, her voice shaking with fear. Kalem remains silent for a moment, his mind struggling to process what he just heard. He is not scared. He's stunned. The sheer cruelty of the suggestion disgusts him. That anyone could think this way so casually makes his stomach turn. Then his eyes harden. He tells them to get lost. No hesitation, no compromise. For just a brief moment, Urnell looks at him and smiles. A small, fragile smile, but genuine. The men stare at Kalem like he just told a bad joke. One of them asks if he's serious. Kalem does not flinch. He stands his ground, confidence radiating from him. That confidence irritates the bald leader. His face darkens as he snaps an order to his archer to take Kalem down. Before Urnell can even fully draw her bowstring, Kalem activates the hourglass. Time freezes. The world locks into stillness, and Kalem's mind shifts into pure calculation mode. He quickly scans the scene and notices something crucial. The enemies are standing in a shallow puddle of water. A perfect setup. His lips curl slightly. First move, lightning. He channels magic and releases a lightning shock straight into the water. Electricity spreads instantly, crawling across the puddle. He knows exactly what will happen once time resumes. Their muscles will seize, and their weapons will slip from their hands. Without wasting a second, he follows up with a fireball, aiming directly into the same puddle. Flames form at the tip of his wand, suspended in frozen air. He checks his status. Only one action point remains. He does not hesitate. Kalem targets the bald leader and spends his final point, draining his action reserves completely. Time resumes. The effect is immediate and devastating. Lightning surges through the water, and the men scream as their bodies convulse. Weapons clatter to the ground. Before they can even understand what's happening, the fireball detonates, flooding the area with heat, smoke, and chaos. Panic erupts. The bald leader shouts for everyone to retreat, his confidence shattering in an instant. But before he can even turn around, another fireball slams straight into his face, blasting him backward and spreading flames across the stone floor. Kalem shouts for Urnell to take the shot, but she's already moving. Her arrow slices cleanly through the smoke. A scream echoes through the corridor. Kalem blinks in surprise. He suddenly realizes something. Urnell is not firing blindly. She's using her sound-based perception. She can see through the chaos in her own way. He quickly tells her to finish the rest. A flicker of concern crosses his mind. Even if Urnell takes out one enemy, there should still be another standing. His magic is on cooldown. If this drags on, they could be in trouble. But Urnell calmly replies that there's no need. They're already dead. Kalem stares at her, confused. He clearly remembers hearing only 2 arrows being released. Slowly, the smoke begins to clear. The truth reveals itself. One arrow had struck a single enemy cleanly. The second arrow pierced straight through one man and into another behind him. 2 kills. 1 shot. A chill runs down Kalem's spine. That level of precision is not normal. Urnell notices his expression and admits she's scared of herself too. Suddenly, the bald leader coughs violently. Blood spills from his mouth as he writhes on the ground, still alive but clearly dying. Kalem approaches him, looking down with an unreadable expression. The man glares up at him, furious, and accuses him of fighting unfairly with magic. Kalem fires back immediately. He reminds him that he was the one who tried to fight dirty first. The bald man laughs weakly and spits blood. He says the world forced him to become like this. People without magic, he claims, are treated like trash, discarded, and ignored. This cruelty was the only way he could survive. As his breathing falters, he declares he has no regrets. Then his eyes go empty. Silence fills the corridor. Calum says nothing. Urinal, on the other hand, looks shaken. Guilt washes over her face as she stares at the fallen men. She whispers that she feels awful for killing them. Calum gently tells her to let it go. He asks how this could even be her first real fight. As she explains, he begins to understand. They did not become monsters because they wanted to. They did it because they were desperate to live. Calum starts looting the bodies, moving on instinct. As he searches through their belongings, something suddenly hits him. He just took a life. In the real world, this realization would destroy him. He would be shaking, sick, unable to function. But here it feels different. Here it feels normal, almost routine, like clearing enemies in a game. He thinks back to the goblins earlier, how terrified he was, how close he came to dying. Compared to that moment, he feels calmer now, stronger, sharper. Urinal pulls out a backpack from one of the bodies, and together they inspect its contents. The equipment inside tells a story. This was not just some thug. It belonged to an adventurer. They even find an identification card bearing the name Abison. Urinal stiffens. She realizes this man was not one of the goons they just fought. Calum recognizes the name immediately. Abison was a familiar character from the game. Someone who died in countless different ways across multiple playthroughs. Fate did not spare him here either. Their opponents were strong, that much is undeniable. But Calum still won, not through raw power alone, but through planning and understanding the system. He pauses, thinking deeply. If he were in Abison's position, would he have survived? The answer is obvious. No. Without the hourglass, without his knowledge of the game, he would already be dead. Boo! That realization unsettles him. He does not want to rely purely on broken abilities or luck. Power alone won't save him forever. He tells Urinal it's time to move. As they walk deeper into the labyrinth, Calum repeats the same thought in his mind again and again. He needs flawless strategies. No wasted moves, no careless mistakes. This world might look like a game, but the blood, the pain, and the fear are real. And if he wants to survive, he has to treat it that way. The further they travel, the slower Urinal begins to move. At first, Calum thinks she's just being cautious, but after a while it becomes obvious. Her steps drag, her shoulders slump, and her breathing grows uneven. 12 straight hours of walking, fighting goblins, dodging traps, and staying alert have finally caught up to her. Calum notices immediately. Without waiting for her to say anything, he calls for a break. The moment he does, Urinal's eyes light up with pure relief, as if she'd been forcing herself forward on sheer willpower alone. They find a relatively safe corner, clear of webs and suspicious markings, and light a small fire. The warmth spreads through the cold stone corridor, easing the tension in their bodies. They sit down to eat. Urinal offers him a piece of bread, her hands slightly trembling from exhaustion. After a moment of silence, she quietly thanks him for saving her life. Not once, but twice. Calum brushes it off, telling her it was not a big deal. She hesitates, then looks up at him with a serious expression and asks a question that catches him off guard. What would he have done if he had accepted that disgusting offer back there? Calum does not overthink his answer. He simply says he does not turn his back on people he trusts. The words hit harder than he expects. Urinal's eyes shimmer and she quickly looks away, blinking rapidly. After a moment, she tells him to get some sleep. She'll take the first watch. Calum does not argue. For the first time since entering the labyrinth, he allows himself to relax. He lies down and falls asleep almost instantly. A soft chime echoes in his mind. Level up. Calum reaches level 3. The system prompts him to assign his stat points. After a brief consideration, he does what he's been doing all along. Every single point goes into wisdom. No hesitation. This path is working, and he's not about to change it. With his increased authority over the system, he checks his allies' stats. Urinal has also reached level 3. What surprises him is her agility. It's absurdly high. On top of that, she possesses rare abilities like sound mapping and blindness immunity. Calum does not even question it. He assigns all of her available points into agility as well, refining her strengths instead of patching weaknesses. When Calum wakes up, he gently tells Yurnal it's her turn to rest. She barely manages to nod before collapsing onto the ground, already half asleep. Just before she completely drifts off, she asks what he's doing. Instead of answering, Calum stands up, lifts his staff, and casts a fireball. The spell launches cleanly and detonates exactly where he intends. The power behind it is noticeably stronger than before. He smirks slightly. This is not a dream. The growth is real. Yurnal, barely conscious, still manages to smile faintly, clearly impressed, before sleep claims her. As Calum watches the fire die down, he decides on their next objective. They need to find the exit gate. The next morning, they set out again. As they walk, Yurnal asks how long it will take to reach the gate. Calum answers honestly, it's impossible to know. 3 different paths stretch ahead of them. The exit's location is random, meaning luck plays a huge role, and luck has never been on his side. They walk a little further, and then they see it, the exit door, but they are not alone. A full party is stationed in front of it. Calum immediately tightens his grip on his staff. He studies their equipment and posture. These are not amateurs, they're experienced, disciplined fighters. If things go wrong, this could turn ugly fast. A dwarf steps forward and calls out, asking if Calum is from the Academy's slave team. Calum nods, sensing no immediate hostility. The dwarf, Vertinen, turns to a priest named Emma and asks when the Academy last sent a group into the labyrinth. She thinks for a moment before answering, it was yesterday morning. Vertinen laughs and says it's impressive that they made it this far. He glances at Yurnal and casually guesses she dropped magic to focus on archery instead. Yurnal stiffens, surprised that he figured it out so easily. Vertainen's gaze shifts to the 2 wands Calum is carrying. He comments that Calum must be pretty confident. Calum lifts one wand slightly and confirms that he is. Vertainen asks if one of them fires fireballs. Calum raises the other wand as if inviting him to find out. The group's leader turns to a beastman with feline features and asks for his opinion. Another member, Zekel, says they cannot just sit around forever. Emma adds that since the kid seems confident, they might as well take him. The leader snorts. Confidence does not mean much, he says. If Calum is just another slave-tier mage, like that clown Abyssin, they're going to be disappointed. Still, the tension in the group makes one thing clear. They do not have many options left. Hearing the name Abyssin, Calum pauses. He asks if they're missing a teammate. Vertainen nods grimly. They ran into a black hornet on the first floor, and Abyssin did not survive. He admits it's a shame. He liked the guy, even if his magic was weak. Emma snaps back sharply, reminding him that Abyssin is not technically dead yet. They used a soul preservation spell. With a resurrection scroll, they could still bring him back. Vertainen sighs and asks where she expects to find a resurrection scroll down here. Calum finally understands what's going on. They've found the exit, but they cannot defeat the boss guarding it. Without a mage, they're stuck. If the boss were something grounded like a troll or salamander, they'd manage. If it were flying, Yurnal's bow would be invaluable. But the way they're acting tells them exactly what they're facing. A venomic spider, Calum says it out loud. The entire group freezes. Emma, Zekel, even Vertainen stare at him in disbelief. A slave mage should not know something like that. Calum calmly explains. The venomic spider fills its lair with poison and webs. It moves at terrifying speed, can slow or blind its prey, and once you're trapped, death is almost guaranteed. Only fire magic can counter it, burning the webs, clearing the ceiling, forcing the spider to the ground. He finishes by saying the one thing that seals it. He's the only one here who can do that. Emma immediately votes to take him. Zekel agrees without hesitation. Finally, Vertainen gives the verdict so, Frankum Duggan and Tavuri. Calum and Yurnal can join them as temporary members, but Calum declines. The refusal shocks everyone. Even Yurnal turns to him, confused and anxious. She says this is their best chance to reach the gate. Calum explains calmly. Defeating the boss opens the exit, but the gate only allows 4 people through. Each passage weakens it, changing its color from green to yellow to red before collapsing completely after 5 minutes. There's only 1 slot left, and they need him to fill it, which means Yurnal would be left behind. Just thinking about it makes her eyes fill with tears. Vertainen sighs and admits he wishes he could take both of them. But they only need one mage. He offers Calum a deal, survival, if he lets the elf go. The elf looks at Calum, her eyes wide and filled with questions she does not dare ask out loud. The corridor feels unnaturally quiet as everyone waits for his response. Calum stays silent, his mind weighing the offer carefully. It's tempting. Walk through the exit, escape the labyrinth, survive. But the truth settles in quickly. Even if he leaves now, he'll still be a slave. They'll toss him back in with the rejects, strip him of everything, and send him right back into another death pit. And worse, he'll never see Urnil again. That answer is not acceptable. With calm certainty, Calum says he won't abandon her. The reaction is instant. Shock ripples through the group. Even Urnil looks stunned, turning toward him as if she cannot believe what she just heard. Calum does not understand her surprise. Why would this be any different? Instead of backing down, he makes a counteroffer. They should hire him. The leader stares at him, clearly wondering if the kid is insane. Skipping the exit gate voluntarily makes no sense unless there's money involved. For 9,500 gold, Calum and Urnil will be hired from 9 to 5, temporary members of the party. The deal becomes void if either side dies. Everyone agrees. Calum nods once and says it's time to move. They step into the boss chamber. The room is massive and smothered in thick webs stretching from wall to wall. Darkness hangs heavy above them, and Calum immediately senses danger overhead. The spider won't stay on the ground. He scans the area and notices something off to the side. A neutral item packed with explosives, just like the ones that appear in many boss rooms. Vertanen warns everyone to watch their footing. The webs are sticky and will slow anyone who steps into them. Calum suggests locating the boss first, but the leader snaps back, telling him to stop playing hero and just burn the webs. Before Calum can respond, a sharp sound slices through the air. A web shoots down from the ceiling. Vertanen reacts instantly, blocking it with his axe and shouting for Calum to burn the ceiling. More webs rain down, confirming the spider's position. Calum grins slightly. Since the monster has revealed itself, this is their best chance. He flips the hourglass and the time freezes. Without hesitation, he unloads everything. One fireball after another, 4 spells fire in rapid succession, each consuming a charge. The final fireball slams dead center into the ceiling. The ceiling erupts, flames spreading outward as chunks of stone crash down. The entire party freezes, staring in disbelief. Calum just cast 4 spells without chanting, something even elite mages struggle to do. As fire crawls across the ceiling, Calum shouts for everyone to lock in. This is their burst window, and they cannot afford to waste it. He signals Urnil to fire. She unleashes 6 arrows in rapid succession as the spider, burning and screeching, crashes down from above. Half the arrows bounce harmlessly off its armored body. Calum immediately tells her to stop. That goblin-grade bow is not strong enough for this fight. The flames intensify. Calum orders Emma to raise a barrier, then signals the fighter to prepare for the charge once the opening appears. The fighter grumbles, but he knows Calum is right. When the smoke clears, the fighter lunges forward. He dodges the spider's strikes with practiced precision and slashes upward, slicing off 2 legs midair. The venomic spider shrieks in agony, flips onto its back, and begins convulsing violently. The leader shouts a warning. It's about to explode. Emma reacts instantly, slamming down a constellation shield that envelops the party just as poison energy surges outward. The barrier holds, protecting them from the deadly burst. Calum clicks his tongue. They clearly studied this boss's pattern and prepared to block the poison. But blocking is not the smartest move here. Freezing it is! He fires an ice lance straight at the spider's swollen egg sac. The frost spreads instantly, sealing it solid and stopping the chain reaction mid-burst. Calum orders Emma to fall back and signals the leader to go in. She hesitates for half a second, so he shouts again, louder this time, and tells Vertanen to dump everything he has. Vertanen growls but charges forward, muttering that the kid's getting a real attitude now. He leaps high into the air, raises his axe overhead, and brings it down with a devastating move. Great shattering cleave. The axe crashes into the spider's skull, releasing a shockwave that shakes the entire chamber. Cracks split the stone floor as the boss's head caves in. Vertanen yanks his weapon free and exhales. It's over, he says confidently. But Calum does not relax because he knows that with bosses, there's always a chance of a second phase. Cheers erupt across the chamber. Relief, laughter, and exhausted celebration fill the air as the party congratulates themselves on defeating the boss. Even if it was only the first floor guardian, a win is still a win in the labyrinth. Weapons lower, shoulders relax, and tension finally starts to drain away. Everyone except Calum. He still grips his wand tightly, eyes scanning the chamber. Urinal notices immediately, asking what's wrong. Calum does not look at her. Instead, he quietly says, "A look up." Urinal tilts her head, confused. Then she follows his gaze upward. Her blood runs cold. The ceiling is covered. Clusters upon clusters of spider eggs cling to the stone above them, layered so densely it looks like the ceiling itself is alive. The others slowly begin to notice. Emma squints, unable to see clearly, but Zekel suddenly screams, his voice cracking as he shouts that there are hundreds, no thousands of them. Even Vertinen freezes, his face draining of color. He mutters that in all his years, he's never seen anything like this. Calum does not hesitate. He snaps into command mode instantly. He tells Urinal to roll over the explosive barrel. She moves without question, pushing it across the web-covered floor. Vertanen stops it midway, confused, asking if Calum plans to feed the thing to whatever's up there. Calum answers flatly, "Yeah, on for the ceiling." Then he turns to Emma and tells her to enchant Urinal's arrow with light magic. Emma nods and immediately begins chanting. Calum signals Urinal, telling her to fire at the ceiling. She releases the arrow. It strikes a cluster of eggs, bursting them open in a sickening splatter. As movement ripples across the ceiling, Vertanen reacts instantly. He grabs the explosive barrel and hurls it upward with all his strength. Calum catches the timing perfectly. He flips the hourglass and immediately time freezes. 4 fireballs form at the tip of his wand, spiraling upward in rapid succession. They slam into the barrel midair. The explosion is catastrophic. Fire and shockwaves rip through the ceiling, igniting webs, eggs, and stone alike. When time resumes, the chamber roars with destruction. The party stares in stunned silence. Murmurs ripple through the group as they whisper about his silent casting. Slave or not, this kind of power is abnormal, unreal. A brilliant flash erupts from the far wall. The exit gate opens. Calum exhales slowly, tension finally leaving his shoulders. It's over. Raiding with experienced adventurers makes things smoother, but losing control of the situation like that still leaves a bitter taste in his mouth. Zekel steps forward, eyeing Calum carefully. He asks who he really is. Then, awkwardly, he admits he's impressed that Calum never tried to poison or betray them. Calum laughs lightly and says the thought honestly never crossed his mind. Then he adds that if it had, he could have taken the gate for himself. Zekel nervously and admits he's glad Calum did not think of that. Vertanen nods in agreement. He says that level of skill is insane for a slave, and it makes him wonder what Calum used to be. Calum shrugs and answers honestly. He thinks to himself he was obsessed with the game and curious about what his character could do. As for this world, he was just another slave at the Magic Academy. Vertanen senses there's more to that story, but chooses not to push. Urinal walks up, glancing around the ruined chamber. She says she did not expect them to clear the boss without losing anyone, and calls them lucky. Vertanen snorts and admits he did not expect much either. He only rushed the contract because he genuinely thought they were all going to die. Urinal looks shocked. Calum simply nods and says that's exactly why the fee was set the way it was. Still, Vertanen admits they got their money's worth. But he adds quietly, "It's not over yet." Calum nods in agreement. Zekel frowns and asks what he means. They already found the exit gate. Calum explains calmly that the settlement has to be finalized in the village. Urinal looks confused, but Emma confirms it. The contract only completes once the party passes through the exit gate. She gestures toward it, saying it's right there, but then explains it's not that simple. A covenant sworn before the goddess of fairness must follow every rule precisely. And one of those rules is that the party must escape the dungeon. Urinal realizes the problem immediately. If they do not all make it out, the deal cannot be completed inside the labyrinth. If they fail to escape, the contract becomes void. Calum adds that no sane person would carry nearly 10,000 gold into a dungeon anyway. The system punishes parties that cannot return. Urinal asks if he knew this from the start. He admits that he did. Large dungeon contracts are always settled back in town. Zekel laughs and says that explains why Vertanen offered 9,500. He had a feeling this would come up. Vertinen smirks and says he's just managing party funds responsibly. Zekel claps Calum on the shoulder and tells him that with his skill, it would be a waste to die here. He jokes that Calum better make it back alive and empty Vertinen's wallet properly. After that, they prepare to leave. Before they move, Calum stops them. He says the backpack they found belonged to one of their old members, Abison. The reaction is instant. Everyone freezes. Vertinen rushes over, asking if he's sure and asks where the body is. Calum explains they never found it. The pack came from loot taken by another slave team after a fight. Emma and Zekel are stunned. Vertinen narrows his eyes, assuming Calum wants something in return for the information. Calum shakes his head. He says he only wants the backpack, not Abison's belongings. Vertinen bursts out laughing, relieved. He says Calum can have it and throws in some extra food as well. Calum raises an eyebrow, asking if he's really giving all that away when they're not heading straight back. Vertinen explains that getting a resurrection scroll takes time, but Emma casually adds that she already has one. That shocks Calum, and Emma explain they've already revived Abison once before. Calum sighs and jokes that Abison really needs a new job. Vertinen laughs and says Calum is 100 times better anyway. The group agrees they should have recruited him from the start. Yurnal quietly listens, thinking deeply. Calum notices and teases that next time they'll charge even more. Vertinen grins and tells him to keep talking. He'll be watching. Then Yurnal raises her hand. She asks if they can just take Calum back with them. The words hit like a bomb. Everyone stares at her. Even Calum is completely stunned. She explains that if even one party member escapes, it still counts. That means Calum could claim the 9,500 gold, gain his freedom, officially join their team, and finally get proper equipment. Emma gently asks what Yurnal plans to do. Even a mage like Calum would struggle alone, but Yurnal would not survive a single day by herself. Yurnal goes silent. Then she says the truth. They'll never find the exit again. If they stay, they'll both die. She tells Calum not to throw his life away for her. If she had been alone from the start, she would have died long ago. The only reason she's still alive is because of him. Calum stands frozen as she starts to cry. She thanks him through tears, telling him she'll never forget what he did for her. She begs him to live well, for her sake too. Vertinen tells her that taking members from another party inside a dungeon is considered bad manners. Yurnal fires back immediately, asking why he did exactly that earlier. Vertinen hesitates, then admits the truth. Back then, he did not see them as real people. To him, they were just slaves brought in to deal with the boss. He says he's sorry for that. Now, though, he wants to form a proper team. He turns to Calum and makes an offer. Join them officially. A full party member. 25% cut of future profits plus the agreed 9,500 gold once they return. It's a strong offer, a life-changing one. Calum opens his mouth to respond, but before he can, Yurnal grabs his hand tightly. She shakes her head, forcing a small smile through her tears. She says she'll be fine. She does not want him throwing his life away for her. They should part with smiles, not regrets. Before Calum can reply, a familiar blue window flashes into existence. Hourglass expansion opportunity detected. He freezes and the system informs him that if he chooses to stay with Yurnal now, her trust will immediately reach 100%. The moment he reads further, his breath catches. Maintaining her trust above 80% in the future will unlock a new function. Command authority in battle. When his turn ends, she will automatically act based on his command. Calum mutters under his breath that this is insane. Then the realization hits him. Just like in the game, special skills do not just appear, they evolve through branching paths. This is not just loyalty, it's a command type expansion. If he issues an order during his turn, she'll act immediately after. There are limits. He cannot force her beyond her physical or mental capacity. Commands have to be simple. Lower your shield, fire an arrow, move to position. Each command likely consumes an action the same way his spells do. But the timing, that's what makes it broken. Vertinen never waited for instructions, yet Yurnal always acted right after Calum's turn anyway. That natural synchronization now has a system-backed upgrade. Calum feels a grin spreading across his face before he can stop it. Vertinen notices and asks what he's thinking. Calum quickly answers that he needs a moment. Without hesitation, he activates the hourglass, freezing time to steady his thoughts. This decision could change everything. Two paths stretch out before him. 1. Leave now. Take the upgrade-free route, join Vertanen's professional team, secure his freedom, wealth, and safety. The other, stay. Accept the expansion, commit fully to Urinal, and gamble everything on a brutal climb out of the dungeon. Time resumes and his turn ends. Calum has already decided. He grabs Urinal's arm firmly and thanks her. Then he says his answer has not changed. He's leaving with her, just like they planned. Urinal breaks down instantly, sobbing into his chest. Even Vertanen looks stunned, staring at Calum like he's lost his mind. He asks if Calum is serious, if he truly understands what he's giving up. Calum nods without hesitation. He belly if this were just a game, he'd make the same choice. Raising her strength and keeping her alive is smarter in the long run, and more importantly, he's not heartless enough to abandon a crying girl to die alone. Urinal asks why he's really staying. Calum tells her to hush. His head is already pounding, and leaving her behind would destroy his conscience. Zekel rushes over, tears streaming down his face, shouting that Calum is a real man. Emma laughs softly, saying the academy somehow managed to pick a genuinely good one. Vertanen sighs and admits he wants Calum even more now. Emma clears her throat and apologizes for ruining the moment, but asks the practical question, how exactly are they supposed to defeat the next boss alone? Calum asks if they can take the spider's corpse. Vertanen immediately objects, saying that's not right. A touching farewell is one thing, but looting the boss now? Calum deadpans that this guy must be autistic because he has zero situational awareness. Then he says he'll just buy it off them and tells Vertanen to deduct 1,300 gold from the 9,500 reward. The group exchanges looks, then agrees, charging him an extra 200 just because. Calum accepts without complaint. Vertanen finally asks Urinal's name. He casually calls her a pretty nil, earning an instant glare. She snaps back with her real name, offended. Vertanen laughs, saying her sincerity was cooler than Calum's fireball. As a gesture of support, he hands them both a token. He gives Urinal 4 health potions, and she bows, thanking him sincerely. Vertanen tells Calum he'll buy him a drink if they make it out alive. Calum smirks and says it better be 2. Emma adds that they can find her at the Temple of Nathaniel to settle the reward. She blesses them both for safety. Calum checks the effect and notes the blessing grants +1 to all stats for 12 hours, along with immunity to curses and decay. It's time to leave. They strike dramatic poses before the gate like heroes from a cheap movie. Zekel shouts for them to remember his name, though he admits he doubts anyone will. Emma wishes them luck. Vertanen digs through his bag, muttering that this is farewell, for now. He pulls out an E-ranked Monon. The item glows softly. It counts as a single person passing through the gate. He rolls it forward and one slot lights up. He tells them to find him at the Adventurers Guild if they survive. He says he knows they will, and he'll be waiting. The gate closes. Silence falls. Urinal collapses to her knees, shaking. She asks why Calum stayed, and how they're supposed to clear the exit room now. Calum admits it was a long shot, but tells her not to worry. He's played this game for far too long not to plan ahead. He tells her to stop crying. They can handle this. The first step is simple: rip the spider's fangs from the corpse. She nods through her tears. A notification flashes, trust 100%, command authority unlocked. She tells him she'll do anything, even act as his shield, but adds it might be faster if they work together. Calum tells her to trust him. There's a reason for everything. She should just focus on the fangs. She answers quickly with a yes. Calum says he wants to help, but the success rate depends on dexterity, and hers is higher. She has a better chance. He opens the skill expansion system to plan ahead. It confirms what he already knows, but adds that commands that are too extreme or unnatural might fail. That makes sense. He decides he'll test the limits soon. Urinal pulls out a fang successfully, holding it up proudly. Ohm nods approvingly and says they'll make poison arrows on the way out. He smiles faintly as he looks at Urinal. Just minutes ago, she was crying. They could still die at any moment. Yet right now, she looks genuinely happy, and that makes Calum is glad to see her like this. Calum hands Urinal the venom they extracted and tells her to carefully coat a goblin arrow with it, creating a poison arrow. He explains the process step by step, making sure she does not rush. She listens, then hesitates, saying that even if she manages to make better arrows, they might not matter much in an actual fight. Her bow is old, worn, and weak. Calum shakes his head and tells her that her lack of damage so far is not her fault, it's her equipment. Bows are difficult to replace in a dungeon, especially for a slave, but arrows are a different story. With the right materials, even a terrible bow can become deadly. A good arrow can make up for bad gear. He adds that the success rate depends heavily on dexterity, so he's not expecting much. Urinal nods, focuses, and tries. A moment later, she holds up the arrow and quietly asks if she did it right. Calum freezes. He checks the arrow. Perfect venom distribution. Stable coating, no leakage. He stares at it, then at her, then back at the arrow. He asks how she managed it on the first try. Urinal tilts her head and answers honestly, she just poked it carefully until it worked. Calum blinks. One wrong poke and she would have been reduced to a poison pancake. And yet, somehow, it worked flawlessly. He mutters to himself that maybe he should hire her as his personal hazard tester, AFPR. He tells her to store the poison arrows and only use them when he gives the word. She agrees without question. They move down the corridor, and Calum decides it's time to properly test the new Hourglass expansion. He activates his turn. With 4 actions available, he casually tells Urinal to hand him the water bottle. The system does not deduct any action points, which is something wet and awful. No wings. Calum's expression darkens. If a black hornet killed Abyssin, it should still be here. He says they should investigate. Urinal points out they do not need to go far. She peeks around the corner and gestures silently. A black hornet larva is feeding on the corpse. Calum's blood runs cold. The parent hornet is gone. If adventurers had killed it, there would be signs of battle. And hornets do not abandon their young unless forced to flee from something stronger, something that should not exist on the first floor. Realization slams into him. He asks if any adventurer has gone missing on the first floor. Urinal says she's heard rumors of one, a rogue named Mr. Black Attack. He vanished after defeating a black hornet alone when his team died. She asks why that matters. Calum is certain now. A rogue is the worst possible opponent for a mage. He asks if she's ever heard of a possessed adventurer. She shakes her head. Calum explains, it's rare, but it happened in the game. The first floor exit boss variant. When the Labyrinth Master steals an adventurer's soul and turns them into a maddened servant, they keep their skills but become far stronger. No wonder they reach the exit so quickly. The Labyrinth is playing with them. Calum curses under his breath. This is bad. Very bad. Very bad. Urinal senses his fear and starts crying, asking if they're doomed. Calum steadies himself, forcing calm into his voice. He tells her they'll handle it. When she asks if he's sure, he grins thinly and says, of course he's here. What could possibly go wrong? The scene shifts away from the dungeon and opens inside a tavern, where laughter rings out behind the counter. The bartender is practically doubled over, wheezing as he looks at Vertanen. Between laughs, he says there's no such thing as a chantless spellcaster. Even one would be a once-in-a-century miracle. 2? Impossible. He adds that Vertanen should consider himself lucky to be alive at all, then casually pours him a drink. Vertanen blinks and says he did not order anything. The bartender grins wider and tells him he ordered it with a chantless spell, and then tells him to drink it fast before it vanishes, like the rest of his sanity. Still teasing him, the bartender asks about Zekel. Vertanen answers honestly, new kid, but reliable. The bartender snorts and jokes that every rookie Vertanen recruits ends up mentally shattered, calling Zekiel a future Mr. Black Attack. Vertanen laughs, shaking his head. Mr. Black Attack was a legend on the first floor, maybe even strong enough to handle the second. Zekel is not there yet. His expression darkens slightly as he sighs and says it's still hard to believe someone like Mr. Black Attack was taken down by the Labyrinth Master. The bartender nods in agreement. Losing someone like that is a tragedy. Vertanen takes a sip, then grins bitterly and says the worst part is that whoever ends up facing that legend as a boss should pray the gods weaken them first. At that moment, the tavern door slams open. A woman rushes inside, her face pale and twisted with panic. She locks eyes with Vertanen and shouts his name, demanding to know if it's true, if her son, Abyssin, is really dead. Vertanen stands and bows his head, apologizing. He tells her the truth. Abyssin was killed by a black hornet. The woman collapses into sobs, screaming that she trusted him to protect her son. Before things can spiral further, another man steps forward, older, calmer, but with fury burning behind his eyes. He tells his mother to breathe and listen. Then his voice hardens as he says this won't end here. He's already preparing a rescue. Vertina explains that the soul preservation magic on Abyssin's body will last a full week. A resurrection scroll will be ready in 3 days, and they'll depart immediately. Abyssin's brother, Clarence, clenches his fists and says 3 days is too close for comfort. He asks if they can leave now. The dwarf speaks up, saying he can use a tracking spell to locate Abyssin's body. He adds that a genius mage helped them reach the exit. Clarence asks who this mage is. The bartender cuts in, saying it was a slave who cast spells faster than people could blink. Vertnone sighs and confirms it's true. Flee. Clarence frowns, clearly thinking they're mocking him. His mother latches onto the hope that this mage might have found Abyssin's body, but Clarence looks ready to explode. Vertanen adds that maybe it's possible, since the team that cleared the dungeon only had 2 members. Clarence groans, saying he's sick of hearing about that duo. His mother snaps at him, telling him now is not the time to sulk. She loudly promises a massive reward to anyone who brings her son back. A lizardman nearby overhears and asks so much, she's willing to pay. He boasts that his crew works the 3rd floor and does not fumble like Vertine's team. Clarence silences him with a single murderous glare. The lizardman freezes, then scurries away as if his entire life had just been exposed. Clarence turns back to his mother and says throwing money around will only attract scum. She argues that without a reward, no one will look for Abyssin. Clarence says he'll go himself with the dwarf. Vertanen shrugs and says if a 5th floor mage is joining, all the better. Clarence replies that it's his brother, so he should be the one to bring him back. And just curious about that genius mage too. Back in the labyrinth, Calum tells Yurnal they cannot wait any longer. She looks confused, so he explains. They've already waited too long for Vertanen's party. The Black Hornet larva will die in 2 days. Once its scent fades, other monsters will swarm the area. As the offspring of a 1st floor boss, it's too valuable to ignore, but they cannot afford to sit idle. Yurnal suggests waiting for the next exit room. Calum shakes his head. If Mr. Black Attack, possessed or not, is really roaming the 1st floor, a normal party won't survive. Their only real chance is for the 2 of them to take him down and escape. She asks if they can actually win. Calum smirks and says there's a way. It won't be easy. She nods and says she'll do whatever it takes. Calum's grin widens. Good, because the plan is going to be brutal. Later, after a short rest, a massive explosion rocks the hallway. Goblins scream in panic as one is electrocuted and another drops with an arrow through its skull. Calum says their real training starts now. They need to kill 100 goblins. Yurnal pales, but Calum is already charging forward. What follows is a relentless montage of fire, arrows, screams, and collapsing bodies. Calum explains as they fight that level 5 is the cap for the 1st floor. They're already pushing level 4 after killing the spider. With 2 days of non-stop grinding, they can hit the limit. Reaching it will unlock a new special ability. He only collects the highest quality magic stones, ignoring the rest. Then he points toward their next target, the Goblin Shaman. Yurnal is clearly exhausted, but he pushes her onward, saying they needed scrolls. That night, they rest near the hornet larva. Yurnal lies flat on the floor, barely breathing. Calum praises her efforts, saying they're finally ready. She notices the larva's breathing is weak, almost mirroring her own. Calum says it'll probably die tomorrow. It has not eaten in days. She hesitates, then quietly asks if they should feed option to it. Calum stares at her. Things are intense, sure. Not that insane. Damaging a soul-preserved body is a serious crime. Still, at least they gathered everything they needed in time. She asks what comes next and sees Calum filling a large orc barrel with water. He says it's part of the plan and almost ready. For now, they need rest. She offers to take first watch, but Calum is already lying down, saying he needs to sleep first to recover and plan. Yurnal glares at him with killing intent. He laughs it off and promises to take an extra half hour on his shift later. That softens her. She tells him to rest well. He mutters that she has a scary side and tells her to wake him in 2.5 hours. As he enters rest mode, the system chimes. Both of them level up from 4 to 5. And for Calum, a brand new special ability unlocks. Next morning, Calum tells Urinal that they're heading straight into the exit room next. She slows her steps, hesitating, then asks if he's really planning to face the boss looking like that. Calum does not even blink. He tells her not to worry. What she's seeing on the surface is not everything, and they're still going to win. That's not what she meant. She sighs and says she just cannot believe he's actually wearing it. Calum shrugs like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Of course he is. A black hornet egg is absurdly tough and makes excellent armor. Behind them, the caterpillar lets out a pitiful whining sound, and Urinal mutters under her breath that the whole thing reeks. The massive doors grind open, and they step into the boss chamber. At the center of the room, a man sits casually on a throne, one leg crossed over the other. Slowly, he rises to his feet and turns toward them. The pressure in the air shifts instantly. Calum calls him out without hesitation, challenging him directly. The man, Mr. Black Attack, lets out a low, humorless laugh. His figure blurs, then vanishes completely. In the next instant, he reappears behind them, blade flashing as he strikes with an assassin's ambush. At the same time, Calum's hourglass trigger. Time freezes, snapping everything into stillness. Calum exhales sharply. This is scale-leaping ambush, just as he predicted. He had already aimed behind himself before the attack even landed. Without wasting a second, he fires a lightning blast point blank into the rogue's face. The crackling energy detonates on impact. Calum shouts for Urinal to drench him with water to amplify the shock. His action points burn out instantly, ending his turn and throwing his skills into cooldown. Time resumes. Mr. Black Attack convulses as electricity surges through him. Dropping to one knee, Urinal moves on instinct, grabbing the orc barrel and dumping its contents straight over the rogue's head. Water splashes across the floor, soaking everything. Calum snaps his fingers. Perfect. He launches an ice pick spell. The boss jerks backward in a sharp zigzag, barely avoiding it, and Calum recognizes the movement immediately. Shadow Leap. Since the rogue has already burned his mobility skills, Calum tells Urinal to lift the barrel again while he switches to his telekinesis wand. He raises it, steady and precise, and tells her to shoot. Her arrow slams into the barrel midair, bursting it apart. Water rains down across the chamber. Calum follows up instantly, firing another ice pick into the spreading puddles. The floor freezes over, turning slick and treacherous, drastically slowing the boss's movements. Mr. Black Attack reacts a fraction too late. Something whistles through the air and smashes into Calum's chest. The hornet eggshell armor cracks but holds. Urinal screams his name, panic cutting through her voice. Calum grunts but stays upright, telling her he's fine. The armor absorbed most of it. He's shocked the boss used a range throw at all, though from that distance the power is noticeably weaker. The dagger spins back through the air, snapping neatly into Mr. Black Attack's hand as the rogue fades from sight again. And Mr. Black Attack is using Invisible. Calum mutters and then tells Urinal to track him. She nods, closing her eyes and focusing. A second later, she stiffens. Above, she fires an arrow toward the sound. It nearly hits, forcing the boss to twist mid-air to dodge, exposing himself for a split second. That's when Calum sees it. Mr. Black Attack reaches behind his back and pulls out a grenade. Calum's lips curl into a grin. This is exactly what he was waiting for. He turns toward the Black Hornet caterpillar and fires an ice pick straight through it. The creature dies instantly. At the same moment, the system chimes, "Level up." His new ability activates Slaughterer's Momentum. The hourglass triggers again as Calum switches to his lightning wand. The skill grants him 2 temporary action points for 60 seconds after a kill. He explains quickly that he dragged the larva here for this exact moment. His target is not the boss, it's the grenade. Mr. Black Attack is holding it high and far back, but it's still within range. As time freezes, Calum steadies his aim, heart pounding. This has to be perfect. He fires Lightning Shock once. Then again, both temporary points burn out instantly. Time resumes. The lightning bolts connect. The grenade detonates midair in a blinding explosion, lighting up the ceiling above them. The shockwave rolls through the chamber. Calum laughs in disbelief. He actually pulled it off. Makes sense, he thinks grimly. He used to be a specialist marksman back when he was alive. Old instincts die hard. He snaps his head toward Urinal and asks where the boss is. She points instantly. Calum fires another ice pick. It slams straight into Mr. Black Attack's chest, freezing him solid in place. The rogue grunts in agony, muscles locking up. Calum nods, perfect freeze. No dodging now. Finish it, he tells Yurnal. She draws one of the poison arrows and releases it. The arrow pierces the boss's chest cleanly. Calum mutters that level differences do not matter anymore. The poison activates immediately. 20 damage per second for 20 seconds. Even without a visible health bar, that should be lethal. He hopes briefly that the boss won't struggle. Then a blinding light erupts from the poison cloud, dispersing it completely. Calum clicks his tongue in frustration. He should not have relied on luck. He tells Yurnal to fall back. The one he really did not want to use. A possessed adventurer is the worst kind of enemy. They retain their old abilities, twisted and enhanced by the labyrinth. As the light fades, Mr. Black Attack steps forward, fury burning in his eyes. The good thing is Calum never walks into a fight with only one answer. Even now, as poison fails to end things cleanly, he is not surprised. He already prepared for this outcome. Earlier, when they whispered plans in the shadow of the corridor, Calum told Yurnal to use only one poison arrow first and wait. She frowned at him then, tilting her head and asking why they would not use both and increase their chances. Calum explained it was exactly because of who they were facing are. Their enemy once swallowed a black hornet. That single fact keeps gnawing at him. No one fights that monster without getting stung, and no one survives its venom without something special. If the man lived through that poison, then he either resisted it or healed it. So you think Mr. Black Attack can cure poison? Yurnal asked quietly. Not exactly, Calum replied. He's a rogue, not a mage. If it's not a potion or a scroll, then it's probably a built-in ability. The real question is whether he can cleanse it instantly. Yurnal's voice dropped. And if he can, then we're in trouble, Calum admitted before grinning. So we move to plan B. Now that moment arrives. Mr. Black Attack has already triggered adrenaline surge. His wounds close unnaturally fast, his breathing stabilizes, and his eyes glow with a sharp, predatory light. Another speed skill activates, and suddenly he's devouring distance, his body blurring forward. Calum feels sweat crawl down his spine as he checks the hourglass timer in his vision. 3 seconds still on cooldown. Yurnal tenses beside him and asks if she should loose the poisoned arrow now. No, Calum snaps. At that speed, he'll dodge it. There's no room left to hesitate. Calum fires lightning shock. The spell crackles toward Mr. Black Attack, but the rogue twists aside like he already saw it coming. In the same motion, he closes the remaining gap. Pain explodes as Mr. Black Attack snaps Calum's wrist with terrifying precision. Calum shouts, the sound tearing out of him, and before he can recover, a dagger flashes into Mr. Black Attack's hand. For a split second, Calum sees death. He signals Yurnal anyway. The goofy assassin reacts instantly, but Mr. Black Attack notices He grabs Calum by the collar and drags him sideways, ripping him out of Yurnal's firing line. The dagger plunges in. White-hot agony floods Calum's senses as steel bites into him. Plan B starts in the worst possible way. Yurnal can only watch, frozen in horror. Calum grits his teeth and forces his hand into his pouch, pulling out a potion and drinking it even as pain screams through him. Before he can grab another, Mr. Black Attack snatches one straight from his pocket, grinning as he downs it himself. That act pisses Calum off more than the stab. Mr. Black Attack comes at him again. And finally, the hourglass activates. Time freezes. Mr. Black Attack stands inches away, dagger poised, eyes locked on Calum's throat. Calum exhales slowly, letting the silence wash over him. He drinks another potion, then another, letting the warmth knit his body back together. The plan snaps back into place in his mind. This is why he waited. He pulls out a scroll, unrolling it with deliberate calm as frozen seconds tick down. As the magic takes hold, he turns his head and tells Yurnal to shoot him the moment time resumes. Then he takes one last sip, looks Mr. Black Attack in the eyes, and silently bids him farewell. Time restarts. The dagger slams into Calum, but stops. It clangs against shimmering armor that was not there a second ago. Mr. Black Attack's eyes widen in shock as Calum grabs him, locking his arms around the rogue with every ounce of strength he has left. Your confusion makes sense. Calum mutters through clenched teeth. That's a magic armor scroll. He shouts for Yurnal to fire. The arrow flies. It strikes dead center and Mr. Black Attack's back. Poison erupts outward, thick and hissing, filling the air. Calum does not let go. He clings to Mr. Black Attack even as poison floods around them, even as his lungs burn. Calum keeps drinking potions, one after another, forcing his body to stay alive while the gas grows denser. Mr. Black Attack starts coughing. He tries to shove Calum away, barely managing to create space. His hand rises, dagger trembling as he gathers what little strength remains. He aims for Calum's chest. The dagger slips from his fingers. Mr. Black Attack collapses, unconscious. Calum staggers too, his vision dimming as poison eats at him. He's seconds from logging out for good when Yurnell rushes in, tears streaming down her face. She drags him clear of the cloud, begging him not to die, shoving potion after potion into his mouth with shaking hands. It is not enough. She empties bottle after bottle, her hands slick, her breath breaking as hope drains away. She sobs openly, clutching him. Then a gate opens. Calum forces himself upright, swaying but alive. Yurnell freezes mid-cry, starting to ramble about her shot, but Calum waves it off. He knows she used auto-aim. She did exactly what he needed. He looks at her and asks one last thing. Are there still 2 open slots on the gate? She nods quickly. Oh, good, Calum says, breath rough but steady. Bring Mr. Black Attack and Abyssin with us. Plan B succeeds, barely. Back at the tavern, tension hangs thicker than smoke. Vertanen asks someone why he has come here and behind a wall stands Clarence. He does not waste time explaining politely. His brother's life is on the line, he says, and he's going into the labyrinth whether anyone likes it or not. The dwarf sighs and tells him the revival scroll is finished, fresh, and stable, but rules are rules. No one enters the labyrinth before 5 in the morning. Clarence clenches his fists. 5 might be too late. Soul preservation magic is not infinite, and if Abandon's body is not recovered in time, no amount of scrolls will matter. His thoughts spiral until Emma bursts in, breathless, telling them to move now. The first floor exit gate is opened. The words hit like a hammer. Clarence demands confirmation, half convinced he misheard. Emma snaps back that he can stand there questioning reality or move his ass if he wants his brother alive. That's enough. What? At the Labyrinth Plaza, Scarlet stands alone before the gate, arms folded tight. Her expression hardens with every second that passes. No one is coming out. No cheers. No survivors staggering forward. Just silence. Then she hears footsteps. Clarence's voice calls out and she turns sharply. When she realizes why he's here, her jaw tightens. Both of them are waiting for the same person now. The gate hum suddenly changes pitch, energy rippling across its surface. Scarlet moves closer, heart pounding, praying under her breath that Abyssin steps through alive. Instead, a rotten face pushes out of the light. Scarlet screams like her soul is being torn in half. The figure collapses onto the stone, and the crowd recoils in shock. Clarence freezes, then drops to his knees. He recognizes the face instantly, no matter how ruined it looks. It's Abyssin. The soul preservation spell has kept him intact just enough, but death has still left its mark. The gate flashes green again. Another body spills out. Emma exhales sharply. Red hair, the build, the presence. Even like this, it's unmistakable Mr. Black Attack. Scarlet snaps, furious and shaken, demanding why the gate is only throwing out corpses. Clarence barely hears her. His mind is racing. That duo, they actually did it. They killed him. The rogue who sallowed a black hornet. The legend people whispered about. He remembers the rumors now, the chantless mage, the elf slave, the impossible clears. Then someone steps out alive. Yurnell emerges, dirty, exhausted, and somehow still standing straight. She raises a hand weakly and tells them to wait if they want a proper hero's entrance. A few people laugh nervously and greet her, relief bleeding through the fear. Scarlet does not laugh. She storms up and demands to know if Yurnell is part of the Academy's slave team. When Yurnell nods, Scarlet's disbelief turns sharp. 2 slaves, bad equipment, no preparation time. And yet they bring back Mr. Black Attack's body? It does not make sense. Before anyone can answer, the gate turns red. A hand grips the edge. Calum steps out. The air seems to change around him, exhaustion wrapped in quiet dominance. He looks like hell, burns, cuts, dried blood, but his presence alone sends a ripple through the crowd. Someone gasps. Someone else starts cheering. Calum opens his mouth, casually says he has 8,000 gold, then immediately sways. Yurnell catches him before he hits the ground. Everything after that blurs. When Calum wakes up, the ceiling above him is unfamiliar but clean. He blinks and asks what happened. Emma tells him he collapsed from overdosing. Too many healing potions mixed with antidotes. His body could not keep up. Caleb nods, then immediately asks where his money is. Emma points to the table. He sits up too fast and starts counting. His expression darkens. Something's missing. When he demands to know why, Emma calmly informs him that 150 coins were deducted for medical fees. Caleb groans like he's been stabbed again. He glares at Urinal on instinct, then remembers himself and exhales. Instead, he asks about Abyssin and Mr. Black Attack. Emma explains that Abyssin is already in a revival chamber and should be fine if nothing goes wrong. Mr. Black Attack, however, was sent straight to the morgue. Caleb frowns and asks if revival is possible for him too. Emma shakes her head. No soul preservation spell, no anchor. Revival is impossible. Caleb does not argue, but he also does not believe her. He knows how soul preservation really works. The spell binds a soul to its body for a week. That means if the body existed long enough to exit the gate, the soul had to go somewhere. If the Labyrinth Master stored it, sealed it away instead of letting it disperse, then there's a loophole. A dangerous one. The Soul Sanctuary. No one else knows that place exists. He does. He only found it once, back when this was still just a game. Caleb says nothing. He just thanks Emma, wishes her well, and leaves. Back at the academy, chains still hang cold around his neck. Urinal greets him like he never left, relief flooding her face. Caleb tells her the good news first. With the gold they earned, they can buy freedom. Her eyes light up instantly. Hope bursts out of her like sunlight, and for a moment she looks lighter than she ever has. They sit down and do the numbers together, fingers trembling with excitement. Then reality hits. Freedom costs 3,000 gold, but Urinal's share does not even come close. The light drains from her face as the truth sinks in. Her excitement collapses into silence. Caleb watches it happen and feels something twist in his chest. What went wrong already knowing the answer? The numbers do not lie. She's still stuck, not because they failed, but because the system never planned to let her win so easily. Caleb frowns, asking how the whole gold calculation even works. The assistant just shrugs and says it's easier to show than explain, pulling out a glowing pair of scales, the scales of fairness, which hover midair and hum softly. Though these judge how much each person contributed during the adventure, he says, pointing to the markings that float around each pan. Based on Vertanen's team testimony, your share comes out low. Caleb blinks. He's never seen magic like this in any game before. Urinal made the weapon that took down Mr. Black Attack herself. She handled the poison fang, engineered the kill. How could her contribution be minimal? He asks if this has to do with Vertanen's contract. The assistant shakes his head and explains that the Vertanen deal only covered acquiring the poison arrow and clearing the next exit. Anything beyond that, including crafting or improvising during combat, was not officially part of the contract. Urinal stiffens, staring at the scales. Her hands curl into fists at her sides, lips trembling. She tries to argue, but a sob catches in her throat. Caleb places a reassuring hand on her shoulder. It's okay, he mutters. Though inside, he's equally frustrated. The assistant does not flinch. Instead, he adjusts the scales, letting the magical ledger record every action meticulously. Everything has been logged. Now the full calculation begins, he says, casting a faint silver spell around their mouths. Belay prevention. Speak only the truth, or your tongues will feel numb. Everyone drops their bags on the table, as instructed. Caleb steps forward first, recounting their deeds as clearly as possible. The dungeon traversal, the crafting of poison arrows, the combat strategies, the timing with the hourglass, the handling of special items, and finally, the capture and defeat of Mr. Black Attack. He emphasizes their primary goal, escaping slavery together. Every gold coin earned from magic stones, every piece of loot, every poison strike, they tally it all. The final sum comes out 14,600 gold. About what a normal 4-person team might earn on the first floor. Not bad. Caleb expects this will translate to a fair share for Urinal. He watches the scales and his heart drops. Her share, only 20%. Not even half of the 3,000 gold needed to purchase her freedom. He blinks, confused, looking at her. Urinal's face falls, shoulders sagging, and she barely whispers her disappointment. The assistant does not offer comfort. Coldly, he explains that slaves in the labyrinth typically earn only around 500 gold if they survive at all. Her contributions, while crucial, were largely guided by Calem's plan, self-intent, firing 2 poison arrows, following instructions, something any competent adventurer could replicate. This is what the system sees. Calem's jaw tightens. She made that weapon herself, he says, trying to argue, but the assistant waves him off. You may object, he says, but the truth is what counts here. Urinal quietly admits she accepts, though tears threaten to spill. Calem sighs. The assistant warns Calem not to show any sympathy, reminding him that these measures exist because the labyrinth punishes criminal slaves by sending them in with minimal support. Calem grits his teeth but complies. He pays his 3,000 gold for his own freedom, the magical collar around his neck glowing and vanishing. He breathes a little easier. Finally, a free man. Almost immediately, 2 assistants arrive for Urinal, noting that a skilled bow user like her could fetch a high price at the Adventurers Guild. Woyu. Calem opens his mouth to protest, to say he'll find her himself, but one stops him. Interested in enrolling at the university instead? The assistant asks. We cannot afford to lose a mage like you. No chanting, lightning fast casting. Full support will be provided. Calem notices the shift in tone. Where once he was a slave, now he is a resource, a talent too rare to ignore. He asks what benefits would come from joining. The assistant praises his exceptional skills and hints at research opportunities, mentoring, and the chance to leave the academy as a master mage. Before Calem can fully process this, a man enters, a tall, sharp-eyed figure with robes embroidered in subtle gold. Is this the rumored mage? The assistant asks, introducing him as Professor Malini. He has come to see the genius who casts without chanting, and at speeds that outmatch even seasoned wizards. Calem bows slightly. I am Calem, he says. Malini nods approvingly, studying him like a craftsman examining a rare gem. He skips formalities. Tell me, he says, what do you believe is the mission of a mage? Calem responds immediately, to create new magic to defeat labyrinth monsters. Malini shakes his head sharply, a slight frown crossing his face. Wrong, he says. The true mission is far more important than crafting spells or slaying beasts. It is eliminating otherworld possessors. Calem's stomach tightens. Otherworld possessors? He swallows hard. Malini elaborates. Labyrinth eruptions occur because possessors from another world cross into this one. If they remain unchecked for more than 2 weeks, the labyrinth erupts to annihilate them. It's a fail-safe, a peacekeeping measure. Calem mutters to himself that even as a free man, peace is never meant for him. Malini continues, reviewing his records. He notes that Calem once adventured and became a slave after killing a teammate identified as a possessor. Calem flinches, the memory sharp in his mind, then smiles wryly. Malini chuckles and says he'll fit right in, inviting him to join the possessor identification club he leads. Then the professor chuckles, asking Calem if he is one of the possessed. Calem freezes, aware of the lie detection magic still lingering from earlier. He stays silent, not daring to answer. The room grows quiet. Malini studies him for a moment, curiosity flickering across his eyes. The professor gives a sly smile, noting Calem's hesitation over a seemingly simple question, and the unease makes him tighten his grip on the strap of his bag. He struggles for a safe answer, eyes flicking between the professor and the fading glow of the lie detection spell. Just then, Clarence steps in, greeting the professor with a calm, measured tone. It might be too soon to recruit him, he says. He's still shaken from the labyrinth. The professor nods slightly, welcoming the interruption, and remarks that a hard-working man always reaps a good harvest. His words hint that even Professor Isilov has taken notice of Calem's abilities. Clarence steps closer to Calem and adds that with his quick, clean casting style, he's better suited for labyrinth work than for hunting otherworld possessors. The professor does not hide his irritation at the interruption, but Clarence simply smiles at Calem and advises him to take his time. Think carefully about joining the Labyrinth Exploration Club. Finally, the conversation ends, and Calem steps outside, relieved as the lie detection spell fades, leaving him feeling the first real sense of autonomy in weeks. He mutters under his breath that if anyone dares use that spell on him again, he'll probably end up fighting them. The thought of such invasive magic leaves a sour taste in his mouth. Convenient, yes, but stripping someone of their secrets feels like a violation, and he is not about to let it happen again. As he calms himself, Clarence catches up, introducing himself as a senior mage and the brother of the man Calum helped rescue. "Thank you," he says sincerely, his tone heavy with relief. "Your intervention helped us find my brother's body quickly." Calum shrugs. "Not a total loss," he says, thinking of the freedom he just earned. Clarence apologizes for staying quiet earlier, explaining that it felt wrong to speak while the lie detection spell was active. Calum raises an eyebrow, and Clarence clears himself, saying most people find using that kind of magic rude. He explains that the spell is strictly allowed only during slave evaluations, a revelation that makes Calum even more irritated at how casually Professor Malini applied it. Clarence's expression softens as he apologizes for the professor's behavior, assuring Calum that not everyone at the university shares the same hatred for Isekai possessors. He explains the landscape. 3 main factions, each with their own philosophy. Professor Malini's group focuses on hunting down possessors. Professor Isilov's faction handles labyrinth exploration and studies possessed adventurers. And Professor Dahlstream's followers actually revere possessors, studying ancient texts that link them to the labyrinth master, claiming that such beings can manipulate human souls and drive people insane. Calum listens, intrigued despite himself, as Clarence adds, "A Dahlstream believes there is only one mage who can resist that madness, a possessor known as the turn-based system sorcerer." The name makes Calum's pulse quicken. Old records describe this sorcerer as someone who can stop time itself, bend reality at will, though most accounts sound more like legend than fact. Clarence continues, shrugging. He notes that Dahlstream's faction is tiny, only a few dedicated mages keeping it alive. When their discussion ends, Clarence leads Calum inside, noting that Professor Isilov is waiting. The professor welcomes him warmly, introducing his club as a group devoted to studying labyrinth anomalies, secret rooms, monsters, and the ecosystem. But their current focus is investigating possessed adventurers, not otherworld possessors. He leans closer, voice low, and shares his theory on Mr. Black Attack, suggesting the man is not truly dead. His soul might still be trapped somewhere within the labyrinth. Calum stays silent, hiding the depth of his own knowledge about soul magic. The professor's request to help locate Mr. Black Attack's soul seems simple on the surface. He's done something remarkably similar before. But he hesitates, wary of Malini's faction and mindful that Dahlstream's group could be a headache. After weighing his options, he decides that joining Islov's club is the safest and most practical choice. He asks if he can form his own team for the club's missions. Professor Isilov blinks in surprise but smiles, noting that most students prefer to join experienced groups rather than starting their own, though no rules forbid it. Calum agrees immediately, committing to the new path, and officially joins the club. The assistant shows him to his dorm room, a comfortable space far beyond anything Calum has ever had, and instructs him to rest after the chaos he endured. Calum cannot help but be impressed. The bed is soft, the air warm, the room stocked with simple but functional amenities. When he asks if he can invite future teammates over, the assistant chuckles, warning that it is not technically allowed but hinting that rules can bend if he's clever. Calum tags him mentally as shy, filing the information for later. Once alone, he steps into a long, hot shower, letting the water wash away the tension and adrenaline from the day. Leaning against the tiled wall, he finally exhales, letting his thoughts drift over everything. The labyrinth Ezroscape, the battle with Mr. Black Attack, earning his freedom, and gaining admission to the university. It all feels surreal, like too much for one day. As he dresses, he begins planning tomorrow. A trip to the all-night library for research, a visit to the admissions office to arrange Urnil's release, and mapping strategies for future labyrinth excursions. Even as these thoughts swirl, he pushes them aside for now, reminding himself that the road ahead is long and he needs genuine rest before tackling it. He sinks into the bed, eyes heavy, but a small grin tugs at his lips. For the first time in weeks, he can actually breathe, knowing that the fight is not over. But at least now, it's on his turn. The next day, Calum drags himself through class, muscles sore and eyelids heavy from an entire night in the library, flipping through scrolls and notes. Still, he figures this kind of exhaustion is better than dealing with another lie detection spell. The thought alone makes him grit his teeth, Professor Dahlstream glides into the room with his usual enigmatic smile, introducing himself as the instructor for a new first-year spell called Memorize. He explains that the spell forms a contract with the God of Wisdom, granting each mage a special memory book to store spells.
Whoa!
Demonstrating it, he conjures his own and the pages shimmer with floating runes. When the students try it themselves, Calum activates the spell and sees his own memory book materialize. 3 slots appear, reflecting his level 5 status. The professor notes that a mage's limit depends on level. The higher the level, the more spells that can be memorized. He mentions that spells can be combined, and Scarlet, his assistant, will guide them through the process today. Scarlet looks caught off guard, but the professor claims a sudden backache and excuses himself, leaving her with no choice. She expects an easy first day, but quickly realizes the workload will fall entirely on her. At the magic training grounds, Scarlet explains that the number of spell slots varies per mage, and with at least 2, spells can be combined. Merging 2 level 1 spells produces a stronger level 2 spell through bookbinding, allowing advanced magic without using extra slots. 3 spells can also fuse into 1, though the attempt is risky and often fails. To demonstrate, she merges 3 spells into a powerful attack called Triple Attribute Strike, unleashing the combined force of fire, water, and wind in a single explosive wave. The students gasp at the sheer power, wide-eyed and awed. Scarlet beams, proud of her demonstration, and tells them that with practice, they can craft similar magic. She hands out a list of basic spells, explaining they can purchase them from the magic bookstore or consult her at the tower. Checking the students' choices, she stops at Calum's, clearly stunned. Dust Cloud, Heatwave, and Moisten. She raises an eyebrow. The last one is just a utility spell for adding humidity. He calmly asks if his choices violate any rules. She quickly says no, though it's unusual. Just then, Professor Dahlstream returns, curious about the commotion. Scarlet shows him the list, struggling to understand why Calum picked such odd spells. The professor glances at it, shrugs, and tells her to let him experiment. Experimentation is the heart of the university, he says, giving Calum a confident smile. I look forward to seeing what comes out of your strange combination. That evening, Calum returns to his dorm, exhausted, but focused. He begins working with his memory book, registering his 3 spells and starting the book binding process. Merging Dust Cloud and Heatwave produces Dust Explosion, a level 2 spell far more powerful than a regular fireball. He grins, testing the mechanics mentally, then combines Heatwave and Moisten, creating another level 2 spell that inflicts damage and even induces Sunstroke. Finally, he merges Dust Cloud, Heatwave, and Moisten into Thundercloud, a powerful lightning-based attack. He studies the results with satisfaction, planning to test them in the field soon and acquire a lightning staff to maximize their potential. But one task lingers in his mind. Urinal sits locked up at the Adventurers Guild, accused of drug trafficking and waiting to be sold. Hearing the guards discuss her case, she fears being sent back into the labyrinth, her spirit crumbling. She mutters quietly to herself, missing Calum, convinced she'll never see him again. When the door opens, she freezes. Calum is standing there, calm, unwavering. We could never abandon a companion I risked my life with, he tells her, his voice steady. The sight of him leaves her speechless, heart pounding, emotions raw. Calum steps forward, smiling confidently, and extends his hand, promising to make her truly free and asking her to come with him. As they walk outside, she worries aloud about her debt, but he reassures her that he has ways to clear it, starting with the reward for bringing back Abysson's body. Clarence explains that only 100 gold has been paid so far, the rest pending until Urinal's freedom is official. She'll receive most of it soon, but must remain in her assigned quarters for now. Calum offers another option. Join him on his next labyrinth expedition. Participating would allow her to pay off her debt entirely and finally gain true freedom. He presents a bow he brought as a gift, leaving the choice to her. After a pause, she asks if he really plans to continue adventuring. Yes, he says, even if I'm not much help, I'll still give my best. Moved, she blurts out that she wants to stay with him, to remain his companion. Calum smiles pleased, telling her they will continue together. He mentions he has already found another teammate, surprising her further. Excited, she wants to meet the new member immediately, though he cautions her not to expect too much. That night, Urnil stays at Kalem's dorm, joyful and bright after donning new clothes and equipment. She walks to her room, swinging the door open, thinking about taking a warm shower, a rare smile lighting her face. For the first time in weeks, the chaos, the danger, and the tension of the labyrinth feel distant. Tomorrow promises work, research, and planning, but tonight, she allows herself to feel at ease, genuinely excited for the first time since they entered that deadly maze together. The moment Urnil sees the twisted, half-rotten face of Mr. Black Attack, her body locks up. Her breath catches, eyes widen, and a sharp scream tears out of her throat before she can stop it. She stumbles back, nearly tripping over herself, hands shaking as terror floods her face. Kalem reacts instantly, stepping between them, gripping her shoulders and forcing her to look at him. He speaks quickly, calmly, telling her to breathe, telling her it's fine, telling her this is not an enemy. He explains that he used a summoning scroll borrowed from Professor Isilov, one meant to temporarily anchor a damaged soul back into the physical world. Mr. Black Attack stands there swaying slightly, his body incomplete, magic threads visibly holding him together. He looks exhausted, like someone dragged back from a place they were not meant to leave. Still, he lifts his head and greets Urnil weakly, his voice hoarse, almost embarrassed by his own condition. Urnil's fear does not vanish. Her eyes dart between Kalem and the necromancer, and for a moment she seriously considers turning around and leaving the room altogether. But Mr. Black Attack snaps at her, telling her sharply that she's not allowed to run. His tone is rough, irritated, but there's something protective underneath it. He refuses to let her go, saying she does not get to abandon things just because they look ugly or broken. Later that night, Kalem sits alone, flipping through Isilov's old research notes. The pages smell faintly of dust and ink, packed with cramped handwriting and diagrams drawn in a hurry. One entry catches his attention immediately. 12 years ago, in the labyrinth city of Sohan, a massive eruption occurred. Over 3,000 monsters flooded the city, including abyssal-class entities. Entire districts were wiped out in hours. The target of the eruption is listed as a single possessed man, Henry. Kalem reads on, his brow furrowing. Henry fought until the very end, carving a path through monsters and defenders alike, refusing to retreat. Just before dying, he left behind a message, not written in ink or carved in stone, but etched directly into the soul layer of the world itself, a code only soulbearers could read. The message is short: stay away from the magic university. Kalem leans back slowly, staring at the ceiling. Something about it feels wrong. If Henry was truly a threat, why leave a warning? And why that warning? His unease deepens when he reads further. The area hit hardest by the labyrinth eruption was not the slums where Henry fought, it was the magic university itself. Either the university rushed in to fight head-on, or the monsters turned on it immediately. A few adventurers mock him, pointing out he's only cleared the labyrinth once. Before tempers flare, a deep voice cuts through the noise. A tall lizard man from the temple of Nathaniel steps forward, ordering the complainers aside. The crowd falls silent. Someone like him should not be here for a first-floor expedition. Kalem's suspicion spikes. The temple never trusts spirit summoners like Mr. Black Attack. The lizardman suddenly bursts into tears upon seeing the necromancer's condition, mourning him openly. Another adventurer steps forward, introducing himself as Hijikata, a third-floor swordsman. Seeing Mr. Black Attack revived gives him hope of bringing back his own fallen friend, and he eagerly joins. Kalem recognizes his value but knows Hijikata won't stay long. Before he can speak, a bald monk crashes into the room, shouting desperately for a chance to join. He declares that Mr. Black Attack is his true companion, and that he'll do anything to be part of the team. Kalem stares at him, realizing this journey is already far more complicated than he planned. The monk finally speaks, his voice rough and heavy, like he's been carrying the words for years. He says this whole mess is his fault, all of it. Back then, Mr. Black Attack was the strongest adventurer on the first floor, far beyond the rest of them. Yet he still tagged along with their weak squad for 3 whole years. Not because he needed them, but because he liked them. He laughed with them, drank with them, treated them like equals even when everyone knew he could clear deeper floors alone. But that's exactly why things fall apart. The squad started feeling like dead weight. Other adventurers kept whispering in Mr. Black Attack's ear, telling him he's wasting his potential, that he should ditch the losers dragging him down. Eventually, the team made the choice for him. They told him it's for his own good, that he deserved better. He accepted it with a smile, but Imus says he can still remember the way Mr. Black Attack's hand trembled when he turned away, like something inside him just shattered. 3 weeks later, they entered the labyrinth without him. Only one person crawled back out alive, bleeding and screaming for help. By sheer coincidence, Mr. Black Attack was nearby. He did not hesitate. He dived straight into the labyrinth the moment he heard their names. Imus' voice cracks as he continues, saying that at the exact same time, his whole squad was being wiped out. He himself was seconds from death, cornered, desperate, praying for anything. That's when a rift opened behind him. Mr. Black Attack stepped out of it, face twisted, eyes wrong, already halfway gone. He teared through the raiders like paper, violence so overwhelming it barely looked real. Imus did not stay. He panicked and ran away. He left Mr. Black Attack behind again, this time at the very moment he needed him most. Now Imus kneels in front of everyone, head pressed to the ground, begging for forgiveness. He says this is why he joined the search for Mr. Black Attack's soul, why he cannot stop. Why he won't forgive himself. Calum listens in silence. He remembers from the game that the first floor can, in rare cases, spawn a stray boss, something far stronger than it should be. He never thought he'd hear about it happening in reality. Imus sobs openly now, apologizing over and over, saying he abandoned his friend at the worst possible moment. One adventurer speaks up, suggesting they give the monk a chance. The lizardman shuts that down instantly. He says emotions do not belong in team selection. If the monk wants in, he'll prove it. He points to the orc barrel and says if Imus can break it, he joins. Imus rises slowly. Calum watches with doubt. Monks usually rely on technique and discipline, not raw power. Imus places his hand on the barrel, breathes once, then strikes. The barrel explodes, which shatters like brittle bone, pieces flying across the ground. The lizardman stares in shock. A power-type monk. Dangerous, Calum does not hesitate. He declares the team complete and tells Imus to prepare for the next run. 2. Imus nods, saying he needs to speak with his wife first before leaving home for a while. Calum turns to Urinal and tells her to take Mr. Black Attack back to the dorm. She asks why, and he explains he needs to stop by the Magic University first to deal with unfinished business. As they part ways, a familiar weight settles in his chest. If a secret processor cartel really exists inside this academy, then great. That's his new problem. He's already made himself impossible to ignore, binding strange spell combinations, clearing Oiselov's nightmare missions, recruiting a 40-plus power monk like it's nothing. No wonder people are whispering. No wonder they think he's some unstable processor-level nuke waiting to explode. If he wants to survive, he needs them to understand he's not a monster. He enters the hall, every professor watching him like prey. The only one he's counting on is the chaos-loving wild card, Professor Malini. Malini freezes the moment he spots Calum and demands to know if it's true, if Calum really bound spells together. Calum nods casually, then makes it worse by adding that he does not just bind 2 spells. He binds 3. Fellini snaps. He accuses Calum of mocking the academy, shouting that it's impossible unless Calum is possessed or personally blessed by the god of wisdom. Professor Dahlstream steps in, trying to cool things down, suggesting maybe Calum is simply blessed. Malini rejects it outright. 2 spells are already absurd. 3 means something is inside him. Malini announces he'll use the lie detection spell again. Another professor objects, but Malini offers a deal. If Calum is not possessed, he'll apologize publicly and compensate him. If he is, Malini will kill him on the spot. Calum tells him to do it. Malini already decided anyway. The spell activates. Malini demands the truth. Calum says calmly that he is a transmigrated soul from another world. The room explodes into shock. The instant the spell takes hold, Calum flips his hourglass. Time freezes. The world goes silent. He scans the room carefully, watching faces, reading reactions. He believes it is the perfect chance to confirm if there is a process cartel hiding in the Magic University. Malini is tense. Isolov is conflicted. Dahlstream looks bored. Professor Enver stares at him with wild excitement, so he decides to keep an eye on him. Calum shifts the confession. He lies, saying the abyss of the labyrinth is the greatest game of his life. Time resumes. Pain slams into him as the lie detection spell punishes him for falsehood. He collapses. Isilov immediately steps in, saying the reaction proves Calum is not an outsider. Malini is forced to accept the result, frustrated beyond words. Calum wins, but he hates it. Being tested, prodded, treated like a specimen. A week later, Yurnal checks on him. Calum says he's fine, though he was unconscious for 2 days after overusing his ability. Malini apologizes relentlessly and compensates him with a legendary greed compass, a relic that tracks loot inside the labyrinth. The gift lights a fire in him. With his team finally assembled, Yurnal, Imus, and Mr. Black attack, Calum steps toward the labyrinth gate, ready to begin their next run. At the labyrinth gate, Calum immediately notices the whispers coming from another team standing there. He leans slightly toward Yurnal and asks if she can hear anything. She listens for a heartbeat, ears twitching, then mutters that people are saying they do not look like much. Poor gear, weird party, easy prey. Before he can respond, a woman strolls over with an easy smile, casual steps, and eyes that never stop measuring. Calum clocks it instantly. Raiders, the kind that do not bother clearing floors and instead farm other adventurers. She politely asks for a moment of their time, tone smooth, posture relaxed. Her crew hangs back, pretending not to watch. She asks what kind of valuables Calum's party is carrying. Calum fires back by asking why she wants to know. That's when she switches tactics, lowering her voice and warning them that the labyrinth is crawling with thieves today. She's just being kind, offering to hold on to their valuables until they return. Safe hands, trusted people, a favor between adventurers. Imus snaps immediately, voice hard, saying their leader is not dumb enough to fall for bottom-tier threats dressed as kindness. The woman blinks, pretends to be startled, then laughs it off. She backs away with raised hands and wishes them a beautifully ominous good luck before rejoining her group. Once she's gone, Yurnal quietly explains those people were bandits for sure. Calum nods, telling her not to worry. If they try to tail them, she'll sense them long before they get close. Right on cue, a scream cuts through the air. It's her, the same woman, yelling for help, voice cracking with panic. Calum does not move. He wonders why he should trust her at all. If this were a game, he'd have deleted her without a second thought. No hesitation, no moral debate, just clean logic. She runs toward them, shouting that she was rude earlier, but never expected to be attacked inside the labyrinth. Yurnal calls his name, uncertain, but Calum is already drifting into his own thoughts. He decides to do the simplest thing. He tells the girl to leave. He even starts counting down, slow and deliberate. She nods frantically, agrees, takes a few steps back telling Calum to do not attack her. Then suddenly Yurnal freezes and shouts that someone is rushing toward them. Her eyes widen in exaggerated fear as she bolts away, screaming that the attackers are coming. Calum asks how many. 4, she answers immediately. An arrow whistles out of the darkness. Imus steps forward and blocks it cleanly, the impact echoing sharp. Calum shifts into combat mode, senses flaring, but the woman suddenly slips behind him, asking him about her acting skills. He feels it too late, a smug breath at his neck. Cold metal presses against his skin. Imus realizes instantly, but it's already over. The woman murmurs an incantation and cast Jester's spell disruptor. Calum feels it hit. His magic stutters, misfires, tangles. He tells Imus not to panic, even as the situation turns ugly fast. The hourglass flips in his hand. Time freezes. The attackers lock in place, expressions twisted mid-motion. Calum finally sees the whole picture clearly. The smug bandit was not after him. She was aiming for Yurnal all along. The disruptor was not meant to kill. It was meant to isolate, and it worked. Yurnal is getting zapped, locked down by residual magic. Calum grits his teeth. He got played, cleanly. No time to dwell on it. He remembers flipping the hourglass earlier to shave the cooldown down to 60 seconds. The timer burns fast, but the frozen world gives him just enough space to think. He pulls out a special scroll he prepared in advance, one designed to gut enemy skills at the root. 3 seconds left. He shouts that they're done for and releases lightning shock. Time resumes. The blast hits the bandit woman dead, on electricity ripping through her body and hurling her to the ground. The shockwave rattles the other goons, breaking their formation instantly. She slams into the floor, stunned, staring at Calum in disbelief, unable to understand how his magic even fired through the disruptor. Calum calmly thanks them, saying they proved his suspicions spot on. States flatly that wiping them out is simply the correct answer. She tries to beg, Dancer. She tries to beg. He does not listen. A dust explosion detonates over her position, erasing her screams in a violent roar. One of the remaining goons panics, yelling about why his disruptor is not doing anything. Caitlin flips the hourglass again. Time freezes. He scans the field carefully this time and spots it. A dwarf hiding between rubble and shadows, puppeteering the fight from the back. That explains why Urinal sensed 4 footsteps earlier. The real controller was never visible. Calum fires another lightning shock mid-freeze and orders Urinal to shoot the dwarf the instant time resonates. When the world moves again, lightning and arrow hit together. The explosion is massive. Enemies are thrown across the ground, some knocked unconscious, others barely clinging to life. The wolfman stumbles back in terror, completely clueless about what's happening. Imus reaches him in one step and drops him with a clean strike. The wolfman immediately begs for mercy. Imus does not answer. The wounded dwarf crawls, pleading through blood. Calum looks at them once and says he won't hesitate, already resetting his mental map. This is not a game. Not anymore. And people like that, they do not get second chances. Another lightning shock crashes down, ending both voices at once. Silence returns to the labyrinth. Everyone is exhausted, but Urinal has it the worst. Her shoulders are tense, eyes flicking at every shadow. She's disappointed in herself, shaken by how easily she was tricked. The realization gnaws at her, makes her doubt her instincts. Still, she forces herself to keep moving, straightening her back, breathing slow. She does not want to be dead weight. She wants to be someone the others can rely on. Not long after, Calum jolts awake mid-step, vision blurring as pain spikes through his skull. The world tilts and for a second he thinks another attack is coming, then realizes he passed out on his feet. Scroll backlash. Nasty side effects, just like the warning said. He mutters that he's fine before anyone can ask, shaking it off and forcing his focus back. While Imus crouches to dig through the bodies, Calum does not bother with most of the loot. He only takes what actually matters. 5 mid-tier healing potions, one-time reduction elixir, corpse resurrection scroll, still intact. Everything else he leaves behind without hesitation. Once done, he tells the team they're moving out. Urinal nods immediately, then suddenly freezes mid-step, head tilting. She says she hears something weird, not around them, in his pocket. Calum pauses and pulls out the legendary greed compass Malini gave him. The artifact vibrates faintly, needle twitching. The team remembers what it does, sniffs out treasure, reacts to rare materials and hidden value. Imus jokes that maybe it's really the treasure. Calum shakes his head, reminding them their real mission is not loot. It's restoring Mr. Black Attack completely. Everything else is secondary. He also tells Urinal she does not have to react exisa every minor sound around them. Urinal looks embarrassed for the false alarm, ears drooping slightly. But Calum tells her she's doing great. Sensing things early is never a bad sign. Then she frowns again and says she hears water. Calum snaps to attention instantly and asks her to lock onto it. She concentrates, guiding them through twisting stone until the sound becomes clear. Flowing, gentle, alive. They emerge into a cavern bathed in soft light, and there it is, the Spring of Blessings, a rare source that appears whenever it feels like it. Legends say drinking from it grants ancient power or nothing at all. Completely arbitrary. Calum whistles quietly. This is not something you just stumble into. Asks Urinal and Imus if they want to try for a fountain blessing. Imus scratches his head and says he already tried once years ago and got nothing. Waste of time, maybe. Meanwhile, Urinal looks Proy, believing finally she is able to help properly. Calum studies the spring, thinking fast. He figures the fountain does not react randomly. It probably checks alignment, stats, weapon skill, compatibility. That's how these systems usually work. He asks Imus if he tried the spring with his current weapon back then. Imus admits he did not. That's all Calum needs. He tells him to go first. Imus shrugs, kneels, and dips his face into the water. The reaction is instant. Power erupts outward, stone cracking as Imus jerks back, roaring in disbelief. His body surges with energy as a massive new skill unlocks. He shouts the name, Smashing Gaia. Next, Calum tells Urinal to try. She hesitates only a second before dipping her face in. She comes back up blinking, then gasps as information floods her mind. The skill she has obtained is triple shot. Her eyes light up like she just won the lottery. Then she nudges Calum and tells him it's his turn. He hesitates as he explains mages usually get nothing from the Spring of Blessings. That's common knowledge. Still, curiosity claws at him, and something about the water feels different. Against his better judgment, he kneels and dips his face in. The moment his skin touches the water, a strange interface appears. Not a blessing. An unlock. His wisdom stat cross 10. Intro skills tied directly to the hourglass power light up before him. Calum's breath catches as he reads through them. One lets his hand or staff move freely without physical contact. Another lets him burn a single second from the hourglass to erase cooldowns or harmful effects. A third allows him to rearrange spell slots at will. The last lets him temporarily control a weaker teammate, though pushing too hard risks driving them into temporary madness. All four are insane. Choosing hurts. After a long, careful moment, he selects the direction modifier. It fits his current playstyle best. Control beats brute force. Always has. He surfaces gasping, sucking in air. The team thinks he nearly drowned, but he waves them off, already testing the new ability. A subtle shift. A sensation of freedom. A message confirms it's active. Best part? No action point cost. That alone makes his day. As they move on, Imus is fiddling with something strange hanging from his neck. Yurnal asks what it is, curious. Imus explains it's a charm from his wife. Upon asking, he explains they met at the Adventurers Guild. She was the first to team up with Mr. Black Attack. She sent Imus on this mission for free because she knows how much he owes Mr. Black Attack. Yurnal calls his wife impressive. Calum starts sweating. That story screams death flag loudly. Before he can say anything, Mr. Black Attack suddenly bolts forward and starts digging into the stone floor like a madman. Calum feels it instantly. His pulse spikes. He gets it. Mr. Black Attack found his own soul. It's trapped somewhere strange, between floors. A half-layer people whisper about but never map? Floor 1.5? The monk even says he's heard rumors about such a place. Before he can explain further, Yurnil suddenly panics again, shouting that she stepped on something. The monk yells for everyone to run as he thinks now everything is going to collapse, but Calum stays calm. He says he saw this coming. Even thanks Yurnil for opening the way. The ground shifts. Stone slide. A hidden entrance yawns open beneath their feet, revealing a dark passage humming with unstable energy. Calum looks at his team and tells them this is their next destination, Floor 1.5. And whatever waits there, they're going in head first. The moment the squad steps onto floor 1.5, Calum knows exactly where they are. The air feels wrong, too clean, too artificial. The stone beneath their feet shifts into cobblestone paths lined with wooden houses. It looks like a retro village ripped straight out of an old school game, the kind designed to feel safe while hiding absolute hell underneath. Calum immediately tells everyone to shut their mouth. The sentinels roam this floor non-stop. Massive constructs with hollow eyes and layered armor, always moving in packs. Fighting even one is suicide. Fighting a group is just donating bodies. Calum explains this quietly as they move, reminding them that the sentinels do not react to sight as much as sound and mana spikes. The goal is simple. Relax. Avoid trouble. Grab Mr. Black Attack's soul. Get out. He's played this section more times than he wants to admit. So he follows the route burned into his memory, weaving through alleys and broken plazas, turning exactly where the invisible checkpoints tell him to. No hesitation. No doubt. He reaches the soul sanctuary without triggering a single patrol. The door creaks open. Inside, the room is packed wall to wall with soul jars. Hundreds of them. The kind used to store fallen adventurers' souls for later revival. Normally, this room holds only a few. Seeing this many makes the place feel like a mass grave. But what's worse, every single jar is empty. Yurnal whispers how they're supposed to find the right one like this. Calum answers just as quietly that the real one always stands out, and it does. High on a raised platform, a single jar glows bright green. Its light steady and unmistakable. Calum points without hesitation. No question. No debate, that's Mr. Black Attack's soul. He warns them the Guardians will charge the second they touch it. Not slowly, not cautiously, instantly. So the plan stays simple. Grab the jar. Sprint back to floor 1, revive him there, clean and fast. They're just about to move when Urnil stiffens again. She points toward the corner of the sanctuary, voice shaking as she says there's another glow. Calum freezes. Another soul jar is pulsing nearby, faint but fresh. His mind immediately starts running laps. If there's a second glowing jar, someone else died here recently. That should not happen in this section unless something went horribly wrong. Floor 1.5 is meant to be quiet, controlled, predictable. A fresh soul changes everything. Before he can settle on a theory, Urnil blurts out that someone is running straight toward them. Footsteps slam into the sanctuary, followed by a bloodied adventurer staggering through the doorway, shouting to one of his friend to run without another of his friend. The friend refuses outright, yelling back that he's not leaving him behind. They crash into the cathedral together, barely staying upright. He is the Lizard Man Bernard. The Lizard Man warrior takes one look at Calum and starts yelling, accusing him of slacking off in a place like this. He adds that the monsters chasing them are seconds away from breaking through. Calum's annoyance spikes instantly. This idiot dragged chaos straight into a controlled zone. Calum asks why Bernard is even here. Bernard snaps back that it's the Order's doing and guesses their objectives align anyway because of Nathaniel's divine revelation. Before Calum can respond, the team shouts that something massive just slammed into the entrance. The whole sanctuary shakes. Bernard fires off a defensive spell on instinct, sealing the doorway just as claws scrape against it from the other side. The barrier holds barely. Then Bernard turns and demands backup. That's when Calum finally snaps. He wanted this quiet, clean, low-key. Yeah. Instead, everything has exploded into nonsense anyway. He tells Bernard to follow his lead now, not after another argument. Bernard immediately refuses and demands an explanation. Calum does not give one. He unloads. He tells the entire Lizardman crew that they're the ones who dragged monsters here, ruined the plan, and turned a retrieval mission into a siege. The words hit hard because they're true. Bernard stiffens, realizing his mistake far too late. He backs down. With escape impossible, Calum shifts gears. If they're stuck here, then they finish this properly. He prepares to revive Mr. Black Attack inside the sanctuary itself. Pulling out a high-tier scroll, he casts Eternal Rest, necromantic energy threading through the air as it anchors to Mr. Black Attack's corpse above. The spell does not revive yet. It stabilizes, shields the body from backlash. Calum tells Urnil to brace herself. Carefully, he guides the glowing soul jar into her hands. The jar hums violently, reacting to the nearby monsters' then unstable floor. Urnil grips it with both hands, jaw clenched. Behind them, the arguing continues. Even Bernard's own team is visibly fed up with him. Calum calls him out directly, saying his reckless charge already cost him a teammate. Silence slams into the room. Everyone knows it's true. Calum gestures toward the second glowing jar. He explains that every time someone dies at this floor, a fresh jar appears automatically. Normally, only one existed here. Now there are two. The realization spreads slowly, painfully. The second jar belongs to Austin, who has just lost his life at this floor. Calum promises them he'll revive Austin right here on this floor today. Paimon can wait until the temple. The Lizardmen's teammates scramble, rattling off their skills, their cooldowns, their rolls. They beg him to save their companion. Calum feels something swell in his chest. Not the arrogant kind, the earned kind. Right then the barrier cracks. Stone fractures. Mana screeches. Calum steps forward, calm and steady, and announces that the real fight is about to begin. And this time, he's ready for it. Bernard remembers the day. The bishop of Nathaniel's church drags him into a sealed chamber and gives him a crucial mission from religious order. Enter the labyrinth right now and confirm, is the rumor about soul preservation real? The bishop's is calm, but the pressure behind him is crushing. Failure is not an option. Bernard accepts the mission without hesitation, spine straight, jaw locked, knowing refusal would brand him a coward in the eyes of his god. Back in the present, the memory fades and Bernard grinds his teeth. So this is the trial the bishop chose for him. He thinks bitterly, staring at the chaos unfolding inside the soul sanctuary. Calum already knows charging forward is pointless. Rushing only feeds the grinder. Staying still, though, guarantees something far worse will stroll in sooner or later. He clicks his tongue and snaps into command mode. Imus, Bernard, and the Barbarian get ordered to stack the display cabinets fast and high, forming a rough staircase toward the ceiling. Urinal and Remus are sent to retrieve the soul caskets. No arguments allowed. They sprint off without hesitation. Not so Zaisawidistitz. Imus signals that the structure is ready. Calum answers by blasting the roof open with a controlled dust explosion, stone and debris raining upward instead of down. A move, he shouts, already calculating angles and timing. Urinal and Remus climb first, soul caskets clutch tight. Calum turns to follow with Bernard and Imus. Then the doors slam open. Black-capped sentinels flood the room like a living tide. Imus and Bernard spin instantly. A go! Imus barks, planting his feet. Bernard throws up his guardian shield, light flaring as he rams the first wave back. Imus follows with crushing blows, bodies shattering under his strikes. For a moment it works, then more pour in. From above, Calum watches the room fill wall to wall with sentinels. Too many, way too many. Fall back! He yells, but Bernard does not understand why retreat matters when they're still standing. That's when the wall shakes. A massive hand punches through stone like wet clay. The sanctuary administrator steps inside. The thing towers over them, skeletal robes fused with stone, staff humming with wrongness. It raises the staff and releases a warped spell. Every fallen sentinel twitches, reconstructs itself, and rises stronger than before. Calum feels his stomach drop. The administrator is not just a boss, it's a maintenance unit. A healer, a buffer, a nightmare. This fight's rigged, he mutters, already adjusting. He orders Barbarian to jump down and stall it. The Barbarian does not hesitate. He leaps straight into the swarm, roaring as he lands. Meanwhile, at the rooftop, Urnil steps forward next, tells Calum, now she will do what is needs to done. Immy, watch yourself, Calum warns. Both Remus and Calum are counting on her. As she leaps from one building to another, Calum's gaze follows her longer. He admits the success of this operation is no entirely in hands of Urnil. After that, he shakes it off and shouts to the group, voice sharp and cutting. That thing buffs undead, heals nonstop, and its stench messes with your head. Lose focus and you're dead. The smell hits Bernard like a wall. Rot, incense, metal, something invasive. His concentration slips for half a second. The Barbarian curses as sentinels he just crushed stand back up. The administrator heals again, undoing everything. Bernard falters once more, vision swimming. A sentinel lunges. The Barbarian intercepts it, taking the hit instead. Stay sharp, he tells Bernard. Bernard grits out, shaken, and apologizes. His shield wavers but holds. Calum clenches his jaw. On this head-on brawl was a mistake from the start, he says flatly. They cannot drag it out. Imus fights with eerie calm, movements precise, breath steady. Bernard notices and cannot help wondering how he's still standing straight in this stench. A Mount Dahlia training. Imus answers without looking. You learn to shut out everything, even your own thoughts. The administrator raises its staff again. Look at the manager. Imus, Calum shouts. The healing wave rolls out. Every enemy surges back to full. Imus exhales once, then charges using his newly obtained skill smashing Gaia. The word lands like a verdict. His fist crashes down, power exploding outward. A cluster of sentinels is erased in a single blow, the floor cracking under the impact. Everyone freezes. Bernard stares, stunned. Is this really the monk who wandered the first floor like a clueless tourist? Before anyone can react further, a bright flare shoots into the sky. Remus spots it first. Calum's eyes light up. A signal's up. Fall back now! Far from the chaos, Urnil finishes her part of the mission. The ritual circle fades as Austin's chest rises in a sharp gasp. His eyes flutter open, unfocused. She grabs his arm. We're leaving. Now. But poor Austin, unaware of anything, blinks. Voice weak and confused as he asks Urnil, who are you? Above the sanctuary, Calum takes a deep breath, steadying himself. This is it. The last shot, the one that has to buy them enough time. One dust blast won't be enough. He needs to hit the ceiling hard and fast. So he activates his ability, Hourglass. Time freezes, and just then Calum shots 4 dust explosions. Time to perfection. Slam into the roof over the sanctuary administrator. Cracks spiderweb across the stone, and with a deafening crash, the roof collapses. Massive slabs bury the administrator and countless sentinels under rubble. Bernard stumbles back, dust and debris clouding his vision. Calum shouts, a move! Now's your chance! The barbarian gestures for Bernard to go first, but Bernard shakes his head, and no, you go. Without hesitation, the barbarian begins climbing the unstable stack toward the roof, while Bernard holds his ground, buying time. Suddenly, a sentinel bursts through the dust, charging straight at them. Bernard reacts instantly, leaping in front and slicing the creature cleanly in one strike. He grits his teeth and barks, "Imus, climb first. I'll hold the line." But Imus freezes. Memories of Mr. Black attack from past battles. The sweat, the fear, the narrow escapes flash in his mind. He grits his teeth. "Not again. I won't run this time." He steps forward, breaking the hesitation, and tears through the minions with precise, brutal strikes. Bernard's jaw drops. He admits he has never seen a comrade like him as Imus moves to cover the climb. Calum fires streaks of radiant magic downward, keeping enemies at bay. "Now!" he shouts, urgency cutting through the chaos, but the ground trembles violently. The sanctuary administrator drags itself out of the rubble, rising like a nightmare made real. Calum's eyes narrow. Sentinels are about to rush again. "Move!" Meanwhile, at another place, Austin, newly revived, staggers through the halls, struggling to keep up. Urinal speeds ahead. Voice sharp. "Hurry! Every second counts. I just got my life back." Austin snaps, irritation flaring. "Revival does not mean I'm instantly fine." Urinal ignores him, pulling him forward. "I'll lead the way on the rooftop at least. One slip and the whole team dies." Calum's team keeps constant fire down, pushing back the approaching sentinels. Bernard yells, "We're out of time." "Extend the iron rod." Imus pops open his weapon. Bernard grabs it and pulls with all his strength while Calum and Remus blast the horde below, keeping them at bay. Slowly, Imus ascends until a cold iron grip clamps onto his ankle. Calum's eyes widen. The sanctuary administrator has him. Remus fires an arrow, but the creature casually catches it in its mouth. Bernard digs in deeper, muscles straining. "Almost there. Keep climbing." Imus' grip slips and he gasps. His arms, he is done, but Bernard roars, "So we're not allowed to fall. I swear I'll save you." Imus shakes his head, voice calm but grim. "It's too late. Run. Save yourselves." Calum cuts through the panic. "Use the dagger!" A magic blade flashes into existence, dropping with pinpoint precision onto the sanctuary administrator's forehead. The monster's grip snaps instantly, and it falls back into the rubble. Bernard does not waste a second. He yanks Imus up, hauling him to safety. Imus exhales. Just then a voice rings out. Familiar, saying he has worked hard. Imus freezes mid-motion. Zila's mid-motion. Mr. Black Attack stands there, fully alive as if he never died. Mr. Black Attack mutters that he has no idea what's happening, no idea where they are, or who half these people even are. Before anyone can explain, Imus steps forward and crushes him in a bone-tight hug. Relief pours out of the monk in a quiet breath against Mr. Black Attack's shoulder, while Mr. Black Attack groans that he's about to lose a few ribs if this keeps up. Urinal raises a hand, signaling they've reached the right spot. Bernard freezes first, then the barbarian, then Remus. All three stare at Austin like they're seeing a ghost walk around with a pulse. The barbarian breaks the silence by calling him an idiot, then grunts and adds that he's glad the idiot is alive. Austin shivers, eyes darting around the rooftop, and asks why they stayed here instead of running for their lives. Calum cuts in before the noise grows. The reunion can wait. They're still sitting on a death trap. He shoots Urinal a sharp look and tells her to stay quiet, unless she wants the sentinels swarming the roof. She clamps her mouth shut instantly. Calum lays it out fast. The cathedral roof drops 7 meters straight down. The escape gate is 30 meters out. Jumping means death. Especially for the monk and the lizard alone is a guaranteed disaster because of their lack of agility. Meanwhile, Urinal is telling Austin about Calum's plans. Calum shares the only move they have left. First, they wipe the guards and the sanctuary administrator. Then they sprint for the gate. There's one problem. The spell they need takes time to charge. Until it turns red, they have to hold the rooftop and make sure nothing climbs up. No mistakes. No panic. A sentinel claws its way onto the roof. The barbarian crushes it before it can even stand. Calum immediately tells him to stop. That strength is needed later, not wasted for fun. The barbarian clicks his tongue but listens. Calum assigns rooftop defense to Mr. Black Attack and Bernard. Bernard nods without complaint. Mr. Black Attack grumbles that Calum is not the leader, but the entire squad snaps at him to shut it. Imus steps in calmly and tells him that Calum is the leader now, and trusting him is the only reason any of them are still breathing. Mr. Black Attack does not argue again. Remus asks if Calum can really stop what's coming. Calum says he can. He'll lock them down with lightning so heavy it freezes everything in place. Then they run. He sends Urnal and Austin to hide and wait for his signal. Urnal passes the instructions in a whisper. Their job is simple. Once the clouds roll in, they ring the cathedral with a mud wall and seal the water in. Austin agrees, still shaky, and the two slip into position. Calum looks down. The sanctuary administrator is not charging blindly. It's moving with intent, positioning sentinels, closing exits. It's trying to trap them inside. Fine. Then he'll break the entire board. Calum activates the hourglass and plants his staff and begins chanting, the words rolling out slow and deliberate. Cumulonimbus. A system alert flashes. Dark clouds begin to form. He stacks the spell once, twice, 3 times. 4, his points drop fast, but he stops there. It's enough. The idea is simple. Trap the water. Do not let it escape. After that, he flips the hourglass. Time freezes again. In that silent world, Calum moves along. He calmly builds more rainstorm layers, shaping and stacking until 7 dense clouds hang over the cathedral like a black ceiling. Power presses down from above, heavy and unstable, and soon the time resumes. Rain crashes down in sheets. The rooftop trembles under the sudden weight. Everyone stares upward, unsure what kind of madness they're witnessing. Calum raises his staff again and releases the lightning. A blinding bolt slams into the ground, tearing through the storm like divine punishment, and the rooftop explodes with light and thunder. Cannot believe any of this is real. His brain barely has time to register the first lightning strike before a second one tears down from the sky. Louder, closer, shaking the entire cathedral like it's about to collapse in on itself. The air smells burned, metallic, wrong. Urnal snaps at him to raise the earth wall right now. No hesitation, no room for doubt. Austin reacts on instinct. He nods, heart hammering, and throws the spell together as fast as his shaking hands allow. Somewhere in the back of his mind, the realization hits him hard. If a first-floor mage like Calum can rain down lightning like this, then every rumor about him being a genius was not exaggerated. If anything, it was understated. The ground groans. Stone shifts. Then the earth surges upward in a violent roar as a massive wall rises around the cathedral, thick slabs of reinforced soil, locking together like the ribs of a giant beast. The structure wraps the building completely, sealing it in. Austin exhales shakily and mutters that he only did it because Urnal told him to do so, then asks, what is the plan next? She just points at the edge of the roof and says the barbarian goes first. A huge shadow drops. The barbarian launches himself off the rooftop without a shred of hesitation and crashes into the floor below. The impact cracks stone and sends dust exploding outward in a ring. He lands upright, laughing like gravity itself just lost a fight. Up top, Calum looks down and tells Imus he's next. Imus is already bracing himself, muscles tense, eyes sharp, ready to go wild. Calum orders Bernard to buff him. Bernard steps in without question, light gathering around his hands as he casts radiant power. The spell slams into Imus like a surge of heat and strength, flooding his body with raw force. Imus grins. Fueled up and fired through the roof, he grabs Remus first and yeets him off without warning. Remus screams the entire way down until the barbarian catches him midair and sets him on his feet. Bernard steps up next, meets Imus's eyes, and says he's counting on him. Then he's airborne too. The barbarian catches him cleanly, barely even staggering. Calum hands Imus a pile of bags. Imus does not complain. He just tosses them down one by one. Each bag is caught perfectly below, like they've done this 100 times already. From the side, Mr. Black Attack finally breaks his silence and asks why Calum does not just nuke everything from the start if his spell is that insane. Calum shakes his head, says the sentinels maybe, but the administrator would not even blink. He tells Mr. Black Attack to listen. At first, Mr. Black Attack looks confused. Then the sound reaches him. Heavy, dull thuds echoing from below, rhythmic and violent. Calum spells it out. The administrator is punching through the earth wall. Every hit is cracking it open from the inside. If it gets out, the sentinels keep reviving. The wall won't hold forever, and the storm overhead has a timer. They're on borrowed seconds. He says that once he gets across, he and Mr. Black Attack will have to use Shadow Leap. Imus nods immediately. He grabs Calum by the arm and swings him toward the edge. Calum hesitates just long enough to ask to be thrown properly. Imus does not disappoint. He gives a full swing and sends Calum flying. The barbarian catches him safely below, boots skidding across cracked stone. Urnil runs over, breathless, saying the plan is working and they'll all be out any moment. Calum agrees, but his eyes never leave the roof. Imus and Mr. Black Attack are still up there. Above, Mr. Black Attack freezes again. He stares at the storm, at the destruction, at the mage who caused it all, looking like his brain has short-circuited. Imus snaps him out of it, gripping his shoulder and telling him to focus. He says once they're out, Mr. Black Attack should join Calum's party. Mr. Black Attack does not understand why. Imus explains bluntly. Because he used to be an exit boss and carries the labyrinth mark, most parties won't touch him. Only Calum will. Mr. Black Attack hesitates, then mutters that Imus is acting like some old uncle trying to recruit family.
Yeah.
Still, he agrees. Imus ignores the jab and tells them to move. Mr. Black Attack activates Shadow Leap. The world bends, folds, and snaps. In a blink, both brothers reappear beside the group below. The barbarian cheers. Calum lets out a sharp breath of relief when everyone regroups. Right on cue, the earth wall starts cracking apart. Deep fractures spider across its surface as chunks of stone fall away. Calum says it does not matter anymore and shoves everyone toward the gate. They burst through together. Urnil lets out a relieved yell. Remus cheers beside her, pumping a fist in the air. Austin stares at Calum like he's looking at a completely different species. Remus loudly agrees, calling him ridiculous in the best way possible. Bernard says nothing. He just watches in silence, fully aware that the entire escape only worked because Calum read everyone's abilities on the fly and stitched them together into a single plan. The Order's mission is complete. Soul preservation works. Austin standing here proves it beyond doubt. But Bernard knows something else. None of this happens without Calum. Without him, they'd all be corpses. He realizes Nathaniel did not send them to Calum to save them. He sent them to teach him humility, to show him how small he was in comparison. The thought snaps apart when Imus suddenly collapses. He grabs his leg and goes down hard. Blood seeps through torn fabric. A deep wound, ugly and dark, finally revealed. He's been hiding it the entire time. Calum freezes, shock punching straight through him as he turns toward Imus, realizing far too late that the real danger never left them at all. Calum recognizes it the instant Imus collapses. There is no shock, no confusion, only a sharp sinking dread that tightens his chest and steals half a breath from his lungs. He's seen this curse before, once. That was more than enough. A rotting ray. Low-tier necromancy, deceptively simple, cruel in the way it waits, it does not kill fast. It lingers, gnawing quietly at the heart until the body simply gives up. Imus admits it hit him when the sanctuary administrator grabbed his leg. His voice is calm, almost apologetic, like he's explaining a minor inconvenience instead of his own death sentence. Calum snaps. His control cracks as he demands to know why Imus did not say anything sooner, why he hit it. Imus just smiles, weak, tired. He says it would not have changed anything. They still had to get everyone out. Mr. Black Attack frowns and asks how Imus was running fine on the rooftop then. How someone cursed like that could move at all. Imus exhales slowly and admits he only felt like he could. The body lies better than the soul. Remus shouts at Bernard to heal him already, panic bleeding into his voice. Bernard drops to his knees instantly, hands glowing as he checks the wound. The light flickers once, then dies. Bernard's shoulders slump as he shakes his head. The curse is too deep. This is not something holy magic can patch over. Not even close. Imus steps forward next. His hands tremble as he digs through his pouch and pulls out a talisman, worn smooth from years of touch. He presses it into Calum's palm and asks him to give it to his wife. His voice cracks when he promises he'll return, then softens as he admits he will not be able to keep that promise. His grip fails. The talisman slips. Calum catches both the charm and Imus's hand. He refuses to let him go. Not now. Not like this. Urnil murmurs that Imus's heartbeat is fading. Bernard starts praying under his breath, words tumbling out fast and desperate like he's trying to bargain with something that's already turned away. Calem's mind races. Fragments collide. Relics. The dungeon's soul system. The preserved soul jars they saw on floor 1.5. The sanctuary. There's still a chance. It's reckless. It's thin. It's stupid. But it exists. Calem lifts Imus into his arms and tells Mr. Black Attack to follow. He does not answer Bernard. There's no time for explanations. He just runs. They burst through the gate to floor 1.5. For a brief, fragile moment, relief hits. Imus is still breathing, shallow, ragged, but there. Then the mist parts, and that relief dies. The sanctuary administrator is waiting, tall and still. Its presence presses down on the corridor like gravity itself. Sentinels line the path to the gate, unmoving, silent, carved into a perfect formation of violence. Calem watches them shift, subtle movements locking into place, forming a corridor straight to the cathedral depths. Then he sees it. A soft green glow peels itself from Imus's chest and drifts backward, slow and unwilling, pulled toward the sanctuary like a tide. His soul, being dragged away. To his soul. Calem understands instantly. The Reaquary, that's where Imus's soul is being stored. That's where the dungeon keeps what it steals. And that's what they need. Right now, Untill and Mr. Black Attack emerge from the gate behind him. Mr. Black Attack asks for a plan. Calem explains they need the soul back before the curse finishes its work. Mr. Black Attack steps forward, ready to move. But Calem stops him with a sharp gesture. Not yet. Wait for the sentinels to charge. He just needs time. 13 seconds, that's how long until the dungeon hourglass cools down. He slams a dust explosion into the ground. The blast shreds several sentinels instantly, bodies tearing apart under the force. Urinal drops another with a lightning-charged arrow, the impact snapping its spine. Mr. Black Attack slips low and cleanly cuts one down with his dagger. Calem follows with lightning shock. The spell scorches the floor, arcs crawling across stone and metal, forcing the line to stagger back. 9 seconds left. Time stretches thin, sticky, like it's fighting him. Then Bernard's party bursts through the gate, weapons already raised. Bernard shouts that he won't let Calem die. Not until Nathaniel rewards him properly. The words are half bravado, half prayer. Calem almost laughs from sheer relief. The noisy lizard really did show up right on cue. With the front line held, Calem moves. This is it, his final card. He tells Mr. Black Attack that on his signal, he jumps in, steals the administrator's staff, and Shadow leaps back immediately. No hesitation. No improvising. Mr. Black Attack hesitates for a fraction of a second. Calem snaps it into focus. Fear can come later, if they survive. Calem raises his telekinesis wand and locks onto the glowing Reaquary deep inside the cathedral. His action points drain fast. His vision blurs at the edges. He thinks of every time Imus stood between them and death. Every hit he took without complaint. He tells him to hold on. He refuses to let him die here. The Reaquary finally slides into his hands. Calem shouts for Untill to fire. Her lightning arrow tears through the air and slams into the administrator's chest. The thing screams a sound like stone grinding bone. That's the signal. Mr. Black Attack vanishes, reappears behind the administrator, rips the staff free in one clean motion, and Shadow leaps back in the same breath. The system hums violently. The dungeon recoils like something wounded. Calem does not waste the opening. He orders a full retreat. The squad surges through the gate together. On the other side, Calem scans everyone fast, eyes sharp, asking if anyone else is wounded or cursed, heads shake. No one answers out loud. They're all watching Imus. Bernard asks what they do next, already suggesting a resurrection scroll from the temple. Calem shakes his head. They've got better options. Calem slips into the hidden space behind the treasure room, sealing the entrance behind him as the noise of the labyrinth fades into a distant hum. The air here feels different, still heavy, expectant. He approaches the special chest, the one whispered about in half-mad theories and broken records. The chest that's supposed to grant whatever the opener wants most. He opens it without ceremony. Inside rests a resurrection scroll. Bernard just stares. The longer he looks at it, the clearer everything becomes. This was not luck. This was not coincidence. The entire setup was planned. No, engineered on a scale far larger than he ever imagined. Calem does not react. He simply nods to himself and says everything is ready. He moves immediately. No hesitation. He unfurls the scroll, channels the magic, and raises the corpse laid out before him. The process is brutal and precise. To fix Imus, he has to break him down first. He pushes the body into a deep, artificial sleep, severing awareness entirely. He strips away the curse layer by layer, burns out the lingering necromancy, cleanses the rot left behind, and rebuilds what was damaged. For a brief moment, Imus exists as something in between, neither dead nor alive. Then Callum pulls him back. Right as he's about to finish, Imus pops into existence like he was never gone, and everyone jumps. Hands fly to weapons. Bernard nearly swings. Calum just exhales and hands Imus the pendant. So what's it? He tells him to return it to her wife himself. No speeches, no drama, just the quiet certainty that this is how it's supposed to be. Later, Bernard grips Calum's hand in a firm shake. He says he'll personally make sure Calum is rewarded for completing the mission. Austin steps forward too, eyes serious, and says he'll repay Calum's debt for saving his team's lives, even if it costs him everything he has. Calum feels something warm settle in his chest. Pride, maybe, or relief, or both. Before they part ways, they agree to meet again in the village. As they prepare to leave, Calum thinks about how badly everything almost went. One mistake, one delay, and none of them would be standing here. In the end, their help changed everything. Urnil tells him to hurry up. Calum says he's not done looting. She rolls her eyes and says only trash is left. Calum counters that scraps are where hidden gems like to hide. He can tell she does not believe him, but he does, so he keeps digging. He finds a blank scroll. Not ordinary. This one can store any spell the user writes onto it. His pulse quickens as he tucks it away. Imus grabs a dagger and hands it to Mr. Black Attack. Mr. Black Attack weighs it in his hand, nodding in approval. Calum's attention catches on something small. A coin. Old. Worn. Familiar. Memory slams into him. The tattered flag from the 1.5 floor village. This coin is their proof. Something he can flash at Professor Isilov just to watch the man glitch in real time. He pockets it with a grin. He tells everyone to get ready. Then he hands Urnil a hair tie and says it'll save her life when Mr. Black Attack starts sucking her hair again. Mr. Black Attack recoils, offended, and says he cannot believe she lets her filthy hair get everywhere. Urnil snaps back and calls him nasty. Mr. Black Attack argues that he has every right to complain. Who enjoys hair in their food? Urnil opens her mouth, then closes it. The logic is diabolical. She's defeated. Mr. Black Attack warns her not to expose his secret. She asks what his real name is. He proudly answers that it's Mr. Black Attack. She almost explodes laughing. Calum laughs too. Mr. Black Attack yells at both of them, demanding to know what's so funny. Later, Mr. Black Attack insists he has thief sense and that they should follow him. Calum says he trusts his own eyes more. As they move, Urnil suddenly tenses. The memory of the goblin assault flashes through her, but then she calms unnaturally fast. She says the labyrinth is shifting. Calum cannot feel it. He just feels useless. His teammates keep improving while he's stuck watching, reacting, adjusting. At the Sohan district, the first floor gate opens. Bernard's group steps through and returns to Nathaniel's temple. Moments later, the gate opens again. Bernard turns and freezes. Calum's squad walks out like it's nothing. Calum says the exit room was close. Then he spots her. A woman pushing through the crowd, eyes wide, hands trembling. Imus freezes. Calum smiles and tells him again to return the pendant himself. Imus steps forward. She clings to him the moment she realizes he's alive, sobbing with relief. Imus watches and mutters that it's a miracle. Calum heads straight for the Adventurers Guild. The moment they step inside, Urnil just stops. Her eyes glass over, then fill, and for a second she looks completely stunned. Free citizenship. It finally sinks in. She clutches the document like it might vanish if she blinks, then starts buzzing with excitement, talking too fast, smiling too wide. Calum cuts in calmly, reminding her she still owes him for every piece of clothing on her back and every meal she's eaten. She pouts, cheeks puffed, then shrugs and says she does not really mind being tied to him anyway. Calum groans. Great! Now it sounds like he owns her. Mr. Black Attack snorts and calls her a cheap 75 gold purchase. Urnil whips around and snaps back that she was originally worth 3,000. Mr. Black Attack freezes for half a second, then nods with new respect and says that's impressive. Just then, Calum leans in from behind him and quietly asks if he really thinks Mr. Black Attack is free. Mr. Black Attack answers without hesitation that of course he is. So Calum drops it. Mr. Black Attack is still registered as an exit boss monster, listed as dead. Even if he's counted as human, the system does not recognize him as alive. Mr. Black Attack locks up completely. Mr. Black Attack snaps back to life and says this needs to be fixed immediately at the city office. Urinal reminds him that Calum already said they have to report to the Magic Academy first. On the way there, people stare hard. Mr. Black Attack draws, looks like a walking ghost, and even the bloomers slow down under the weight of it. Whispers ripple outward. A crowd starts forming. Someone asks, what's going on? Hajikata appears, demanding to know where the Soul Sanctuary is. Calum answers calmly that it used to be an interfloor village. That's all it takes. Whispers explode. Floor 1.5. The words spread instantly, and Calum realizes everyone already knows. Before he can process that, his old dwarf squad pushes through the crowd, faces pale, voices shaking. They say he cleared the floor 1.5 boss and wiped out 100 sentinels with a thundercloud. Calum barely reacts. The hype slides right off him. He just wants out. He finally reaches Professor Isilov and hands over the staff taken from the interfloor village boss. He explains that it contains an undead restoration spell. Isilov examines it closely, then confirms it's Tier 3 necromancy. Calum already knows what that means. Anything Tier 2 or higher is absurdly rare. No wonder the entire city is losing its mind. Isilov admits he thought the mission was nothing more than a B-rank faculty errand. Instead, Calum went all the way to floor 125 and beat the boss. He calls it an insane feat for someone who is not even a senior student. He tells Calum to use the staff well and to think carefully about what reward he wants. Calum agrees. The door suddenly slams open. Professor Malini bursts in, practically vibrating, saying he heard the news and knew Calum would pull it off. He claims he already informed Bishop Agalo and that the entire temple is in chaos. Isilov tries to ask what he means, but Malini steamrolls him, explaining that when a quarter of the academy pulls off something this massive, the rival temple won't stay quiet. Then he grabs Calum's hand and demands every detail right now. The Servain Cardinal leans forward and asks if what he heard is true. Bishop Agalo answers without hesitation, exactly as reported. A monk dying from unkin necromancy is taken to floor 1.5 just before death. His soul is sealed inside a soul casket, then restored later in the resurrection room. The bishop admits it sounds unbelievable. A first-year mage pulling this off should not be possible. He adds honestly that if he himself had faced that situation, he doubts he would have come up with such a solution. The cardinal stands. Necromancy is uncomfortable for the church, he says, but this method exists only because the one acting was a mage, not a priest. Inwardly, he reflects that the temple tolerated undead research and supplied resurrection scrolls for a single reason: to remain the central authority over soul preservation and revival. This incident may force major changes to temple policy and operations. He asks how Bernard is holding up. The bishop answers grimly. Bernard is deeply shaken. In the mission report, he listed his own contribution as 0. When pressed, the bishop explains Bernard claimed he did nothing, said that without the mage who even revived a dead teammate, none of them would have escaped. He gave the entire mission reward to the other party. The cardinal sighs, saying the thought of Bernard's distress pains him. He tells the bishop to comfort him well. Then he asks one last thing. What was the mage's name? He says he wants to keep an eye on that boy's future. Later, Calum is completely drained. He barely manages to ditch Malini before escaping with the others. As they leave, Clarence catches up and thanks him for saving Abyssin. He announces he's throwing a party tonight. Calum asks if Urinal's invited. Clarence says of course. This is of course. Calum remembers Mr. Black Attack stormed off earlier, fed up with the teasing mages, so it'll probably just be the two of them. Urinal bounces on her heels, excitement written all over her face. The scene shifts to the Bartonen family mansion. Warm light spills over polished stone as Calum and Urinal stop at the iron gates. A guard steps forward at once, eyes narrowing when he spots Calum's academy uniform. Students in uniform do not usually walk straight into noble estates unless they're desperate or delusional. He asks how they came here. Calum answers evenly that they're guests for the party. The guard hesitates, then exhales and straightens, apologizing for the misunderstanding. Lately, many students have been showing up hoping to secure a patron. He explains, so he assumed the same. The uniform threw him off. Calum understands. He does not argue. Identification is requested. Before Calum can reach into his coat, Urinal darts ahead, practically vibrating as she presents her guild ID with both hands. The guard checks it carefully, then raises his wand and murmurs a message transmission spell. A faint glow flickers, confirmation passes through the system, and the gate swings open. Music pours out immediately. The mansion's interior is alive. String instruments echo through vaulted halls. Nobles mingle in clusters. Academy mages drift between conversations layered with politics and ambition. Perfume and mana hang thick in the air. Urnil takes it all in, eyes bright. Meanwhile, Calum is here for two reasons. First, to directly observe high society mages and formally receive the reward for retrieving Abyssin. Second, and more important, to investigate one man, Professor Enver. Calum has not forgotten him. Shia! During the confrontation with Professor Malini, Professor Enver's reaction stood out. The way his face lit up, the uncontrolled excitement in his eyes. Calum remembers that expression all too well. A man laughing as he self-destructs, proudly declaring himself a possessor. The memory resurfaces uninvited. Then it breaks. It approaches, smiling wide, his mother beside him. Abyssin is with them, on his wheelchair. Clarence asks when Calum arrived. Calum says just now, noting that message transmission magic must already be buzzing. Clarence laughs and says delivery accidents happen sometimes. He nudges Abyssin forward and tells him to greet his benefactor and classmate. Abyssin lights up instantly. He thanks Calum with barely contained excitement, blurting that he heard everything, defeating the exit boss without equipment, reviving Mr. Black Attack. He asks how Calum gained such skills when they're both first years. Calum rubs the back of his neck, embarrassed, saying, Abyssin is exaggerating. He redirects the conversation, asking about Abyssin's injuries instead. Abyssin explains pain relief magic is active and regeneration is ongoing at the temple, so he's fine for now. His mother steps in, welcoming Calum warmly and expressing hope that he and Abyssin will get along. Calum agrees easily and asks if he may tour the mansion. She gives permission at once and tells Abyssin to show him around. Abyssin looks thrilled. As they move through the mansion, Calum's eyes work constantly. Corridors, staircases, servant paths, balcony access points, he absorbs it all. Understanding the mansion's structure is basic and necessary. Urinal moves naturally nearby. She's mapping it too. By the time they complete a full circuit, Calum already has the layout locked in. He praises the mansion aloud, just polite enough to avoid suspicion. That's when he sees them. Professor Malini and Professor Enver. Professor Malini greets them cheerfully, praising them and openly boosting Abyssin's confidence. He then asks for Professor Enver's opinion. Then Professor Enver steps forward, smiles sharp and calculated. He remarks that finding a resurrection scroll inside the labyrinth at the perfect moment stretches the definition of effort. He asks how Calum obtained it. Calum is not surprised. Of course someone would ask. Bernard and the temple would never reveal the compass's existence. Information about legendary artifacts is implicitly sealed, an unspoken courtesy. If rumors spread, those artifacts become targets. There's only one person here who knows the truth. Outwardly, Calum shrugs and says he got lucky. Professor Enver studies him closely. Professor Malini laughs, clearly pleased, already attributing success to her influence. Professor Enver asks whether Calum is hiding something. Professor Malini waves it off, saying a mage should have at least one secret. Professor Enver lets it slide. For now. He pivots smoothly, asking instead about the Cumulonimbus spell that defeated the Sanctuary Administrator. Calum explains he combined 3 first-grade spells. Professor Enver stiffens. Triple combination, he mutters, probabilistically unstable. Including utility magic pushes it even further beyond reason. That level of success can't be reached through logic alone. Calum smirks and says that was luck too. The irritation finally cracks through Professor Enver's composure. Spellbook combination is not chance. Neither is execution at that level. His thoughts spiral. Calum is not a possessor, at least not recently. So how does he possess knowledge even Malini lacks? He wonders if it is knowledge passed down from a possessor. One name surfaces, a former colleague dead, the Yoho tribe possessor. Professor Enver looks at Calum again and asks one final question, whether he plans to keep being lucky in the future. Calum answers calmly that he plans to be lucky forever. Professor Enver nods once, says he understands, and excuses himself. He leaves abruptly. Calum watches him go, pulse steady. Haste confirms it. Professor Enver took the bait. Calum cleared everything, hidden developer difficulty included. He monopolized information other possessors never experienced. Now the question is simple. What will you do about a mage who knows more than you, but is not a possessor? A system alert flashes into existence, activating Hourglass. Time freezes. Calum turns sharply to Urinal and orders her to follow Professor Enver, to listen, to report who he meets and what he says. Time resumes. Elsewhere in the mansion, Professor Enver knocks on a closed door. A voice from inside snaps that he already said he is not interested in socializing at parties. Professor Enver cuts straight to the point, saying it's about Calum. That boy knows more than expected. His guess is that the Yoho tribe possessor came from a far higher difficulty than theirs. Calum holds that veteran knowledge, and more he has not revealed yet. Soul preservation sites. Treasure rooms. There's a pause. The voice inside says that's interesting. Professor Enver presses on, calling it an opportunity. They need to catch Calum and bring him over. The voice asks if Professor Enver is suggesting revealing Calum as a possessor. Professor Enver rejects that immediately. Too dangerous. Calum is close to Malini. Instead, they should request a private meeting upstairs now. If they wait any longer, Professor Enver trails off. Black Dog will reach Calum first. Meanwhile, Urinal listens to all this from behind a wall using her sharp ears. The scene then shifts. Calum asks Urinal quietly, almost to himself, if they call it Black Dog. She hesitates, words awkward on her tongue, admitting that she knows eavesdropping is bad, but insists it's important because they're talking about him. She stresses she's not usually like this, and he calms her with a soft smile, assuring her it does not matter. The name echoes in his mind, Black Dog. He's heard whispers calling it a crime syndicate, a shadowy organization known for dealing with possessed individuals and unsavory mages. Yet he wonders why they would approach him specifically. He drifts into thought, turning over the details of Professor Enver's strange behavior. Why had Enver seemed embarrassed, even flustered, when the topic of the resurrection scroll arose? Could it be linked to the Black Dog? Images flash before him. Darkened buildings at night, a tattered red flag hanging limply in the wind, a black wolf's head printed sharply across it. He senses a connection between this group and the possessed faction from the academy, uneasy, distrustful, and clearly not on friendly terms. His gaze darkens with resolve. He needs to look into Black Dog. The crowd's attention shifts abruptly as a man in fine clothes ascends the stage. Edward Bertanen, patriarch of the Bertanen family, smiles broadly as he greets everyone. Today we celebrate the safe return of my youngest son, Abyssin. He announces, his voice rich and commanding. Thank you all for coming, he continues, gesturing toward the two adventurers who saved him, Mage Calum and Ranger Urinal. The crowd erupts into applause, and both Calum and Urinal feel the weight of attention settle on them. Edward's smile widens. In return, he has prepared a special gift for them. He declares, telling them to seek him out before the party ends. Then he announces a game for the evening, a challenge called Maze Messenger. It requires skill, logic, and a combination of magic and wisdom. Whispers ripple through the guests. Excitement is palpable. Edward explains that participants will use messaging magic in groups of 3, racing to find the escape scroll. Each player may choose their professional role, be it warrior, mage, or otherwise. Each encounter grants 60 seconds for discussion, and plans must be submitted via magical slips of paper. Judging follows plausibility, and results range from great success to catastrophic failure. He adds with a knowing smile that, for example, letting a warrior charge while a mage attacks barehanded would be a failure. Edward adds a flourish to entice the crowd. An entry fee can be placed as a bet, and the winner receives 5 times the amount, all admission fees going to the college scholarship fund. Cheers erupt once more. Calum speaks up, asking if he may place a bet on today's payout. Edward nods without hesitation, stating this privilege is for the two of them alone. Then he announces team selection, granting Calum and Urinal priority. He smiles wryly, mentioning that as a new mage and a novice ranger, it's possible no one will choose them, but Calum's eyes scan the audience calmly. Then he announces he chooses Urinal first, and Edward raises an eyebrow, asking Urinal if she will accept. Flattered, Urinal nods vigorously, confirming she wants to team up with Calum, despite stronger candidates lingering nearby. Calum's lips lift in a subtle smile. First choice is granted for a reason, he reasons. Edward's hand rests lightly on his chin, and he chuckles, acknowledging the cleverness of the duo. Communication jamming spells cover the mansion, he explains, but mages like Calum and their Lady Elf Ranger are exceptions. Next, Calum surveys the room and announces his next teammate. Isilbertainen, eldest daughter of the family and a 5th-level mage. Urinal had mentioned this room belonged to her, a prodigy since childhood. While unlikely possessed, she presents an opportunity to understand her connection to Inver. Young mages around mutter with jealousy, eyes flashing, wishing they could join the team. Isil remains calm, her gaze indifferent, uninterested in the game itself, yet curiosity about Calum's ability lingers. The trio walks down red-carpeted steps, the gardens stretch wide under the moonlight. A massive maze stands before them, intricate and dark. Edward reminds all that there is only one escape scroll. Luck and skill will determine success. Side by side, Calum, Urinal, and Isil step into the maze. The air carries the scent of soil and burning torches. Rogues, mages, priests, everything seems real. Urinal twitches her pointed ears, anxious, unable to hear the other teams. Calum explains that noise suppression magic hides their locations, and Urinal falters, panic rising at her inability to assist. Isil reassures them, casting noise suppression on their group. Her level 5 mastery is evident as she follows with shorthand magic, capturing spoken words into text for easy reference. Isil then explains that each player only has 5 notes, 15 total. Better to wait until rival teams are exhausted. Calum's eyes sharpen, they cannot hesitate. Rapid resolution and the shortest route are key. Isil frowns, disagreeing, claiming risk is too high. These mages are overly cautious, stubborn. Calum glances at Urinal, and she, trembling, nods in support. Isil sighs, conceding that she has no particular stake in winning, curiosity alone guiding her. Without hesitation, Calum steps forward, leading them into the maze depths. They blur into afterimages, disappearing into the darkened corridors. He pulls a note from shorthand magic immediately. The passage is littered with corpses pierced by spears and swords, armor and clothing stripped, yet valuables untouched. This is no goblin raid, no typical robbery. Only one type of creature collects the intimate garments of the deceased, banshees. Calum notes it and crushes the paper, activating illusion magic to shrink the trio to children's size. Banshees never harm children. A flash of light, and the 3 become tiny forms, words appearing on the note confirming a big success. The territory is safely traversed. Banshee's tears collected, ready to use against enemies. Isil's eyes widen at the efficiency. Ahead, rugged mountains rise under oppressive heat. Calum fans the air, assessing potential threats. Magma furnaces, sludge monsters, elemental beings. Isil suggests a fire giant, but Calum crouches, examining charred soil. Iron devourer traces. They must act carefully. Urinal reaches for a note with explosives, but Calum stops her instantly, commanding caution. No signal interference is present, and shorthand magic confirms the Iron Eater has been lured effectively. A knight's great sword lies ahead. Calum pants, urging haste. Isil watches, impressed and wary. Such foresight is beyond any possessed knowledge. No mere academy mage could act like this. After running and efficiently succeeding in all the challenges, they pause briefly to catch breath. Then Calum suddenly asks Isil about otherworldly possessors. Isil's pupils shrink, her mind racing, and he glances at her, blue light flashing in his eyes with a sly, knowing smile. Then Calum says, for example, Professor Enver. Isil turns pale, realization dawning. Isil turns pale, her gaze flicking nervously to Calum. Does he know about Enver and her relationship? Did he overhear their conversation before the game even began? The possibility gnaws at her. Impossible, she thinks. If he had used sound magic, there's no way she would have failed to notice. Her eyes narrow at Urinal, firm and unyielding. She remembers her earlier saying if she can't hear, then she can't help them. She wonders, Does that elf have the ability to map sounds? Her thoughts scramble. That's why he brought the rookie with him. Just a few minutes of conversation in a 5-hour party, and yet he suspected Enver from the beginning. So the whole party has been eavesdropped on all this time. He did not discover this today. So when exactly did he figure it out? Urinal stiffens beside her, sensing the weight of the revelation, but too far to intervene, while Izil turns sharply, her heart pounding. Calum raises his wand casually, a relaxed smile curling his lips. He assures her, soft but firm, that he has no intention of harming any possessed person. He only wants to talk, to know what she knows. Izil diverts her eyes, unsure, muttering that she does not know the details herself. She steels herself, realizing that pretending ignorance is her only choice. The conversation that had taken place at the Magic Academy, organized by the secretive society, involved possessed individuals using disguise magic to hide their identities. Calum lowers his eyes, questioning why she, an unpossessed 5th-level mage, would even participate in such a club. She clenches her fists, admitting the truth. She joined to learn how to bind magical tomes, an elite course meant for prodigies. Calum considers this quietly. That club likely wanted to leverage the power of the Burton family for their own safety, he believes. He asks again, probing gently, why she remains in that club despite her already advanced capabilities. Izil avoids his gaze, answering eagerly that she is willing to do anything, as much money as necessary. Calum cuts her off, dismissing the offer of wealth, claiming he has more than enough. Then he proposes another solution. He hails from the east, he says, and knowing she is active there, he asks for her help in investigating 2 former teammates. Izil hesitates, fumbling with the words, then nods quietly, her consent a reluctant agreement. The corners of Calum's mouth lift slightly. He decides to lighten the mood. He guesses her true motivation for joining the society. She wants to explore the deep layers of the labyrinth, watching as her eyes widen in horror. How could he know? He observes her carefully, his gaze sharp, knife-like. She's a 5th-level mage. Grimoire binding is trivial for her. The only thing that could interest someone like her is deep knowledge, the kind no ordinary course or club could provide. Calum leans closer, offering a partnership, join forces with them, and he promises to reveal the secrets of the Enver community, knowledge few have ever touched. He gestures with his index finger to his lips, ensuring secrecy, and Izil lowers her eyes, uncertain but intrigued. Urinal trembles beside him, eyes wide as she asks, are they rich? Calum sighs softly, chiding her silently. Did not you understand the conversation? The scene shifts, a torch flickers on the walls, casting shadows across the marble floors, and a faint chill of information transmission interruption lingers. Izil stands stiffly, cold sweat dripping down her temple, when suddenly a piece of parchment appears in thin air, carrying blessings. She's moved deeply, and a peculiar compulsion seizes her. She must sing and dance in front of her teammates for 3 minutes, refusal inviting punishment. Urinal claps her hands in excitement, almost unable to contain herself at the prospect of seeing Izil perform. Calum turns toward Urinal, muttering with a hint of resignation that this is going to be interesting. Izil's face pales. Does she really want to go through this? Calum reminds her with a faint smile that there will indeed be consequences for refusal. Izil closes her eyes, trembling, whispering the invocation awkwardly, invoking the grace of the Holy Spirit over her pure mind and body. Calum's eyes darken briefly, thinking grimly that this is hardly a talent show for children, and he is ill-prepared to deal with it. Urinal rests her chin in her hands, watching fascinated and slightly intoxicated by the scene. Calum attempts reassurance, telling Izil she dances well, though the elf's expression remains crestfallen. Oh, please keep this confidential, Calum mutters with a mischievous grin. Then he takes the lead, stepping forward as they move deeper into the hall. Soon, they had a magnificent altar, a sapphire glow emanating from its center. Urinal points forward excitedly, asking if this is where the scroll will be summoned. Izil breathes a quiet sigh of relief, confirming it is. Calum instructs Urinal to retrieve the scroll and send an escape message immediately, signaling the end of the round. Malini watches in awe, impressed at the coordination, commenting that everything seems resolved simply by following him. Calum glances behind, noticing another team emerging, confused by the lack of strategy, and proposes coldly that the freshman team must be struggling. Should they assist them? Professor Inver's shadow looms. He had suggested their intervention. Calem's eyes gleam with cold cunning as he realizes Inver is observing from behind, likely testing how much knowledge he has regarding possessed individuals. He suggests, almost playfully, taking the scroll and leaving, but Malini insists, smiling slyly, that they should treat this as a game. Calem agrees in tone, but reminds her coldly that all bonuses are contingent on following the rules. No direct attacks are allowed. All combat must be executed through information transmission. Malini shouts excitedly that the game is now interesting. Calem commands Yurnal to dash toward the altar, and she responds without hesitation, trusting his direction. Suddenly, an invisible force pushes her forward. Professor Haley, standing nearby, smiles proudly, unaware that Calem is manipulating the scene. Professor Haley raises the wand, ordering the stenographer to unleash a fireburst. Soon, Calem's silence magic follows, immobilizing Haley's spells for 30 seconds. Malini gasps, while Izel chants protective spells, raising a guardian shield that condenses into a brilliant wall of light. The shield blocks a powerful shockwave, yet Izel's protective magic fails shortly after, leaving her stunned and unable to move for 10 seconds. Beads of sweat run down her forehead as she falls to the ground. Malini looks on, frustrated, questioning whether he should intervene. He glances at Calem, anticipation and challenge mingling in his eyes. A faint sneer appears at the corner of Calem's mouth. The hourglass of the round begins. He calculates rapidly. Professor Haley, a mage, and Malini, a more aggressive type. Inver abstains, playing a protective role. Inver's cold light flashes in his eyes. He transmits instructions to Yurnal. Once the scroll is visible on the altar, send the escape message immediately. Malini's wand radiates cold intent. Calem counters with a precise ice spike, targeting him silently. Malini reels in horror, his fast casting disrupted. He uses the stenographer to cast Phoenix Regeneration on Enver, tossing a potion midair. At the same time, Banshee tears fly toward Enver, cloaking him in a protective blue aura. His body lifts uncontrollably, and Calem observes the scene with mild shock, noting his dizziness from the Banshee's scream. 20 seconds of stunned status ensue. Meanwhile, Yurnal dashes toward the scroll on the altar, reaching out as instructed. The stenographer summons and targets Yurnal, surrounding her in blue light. The scroll vanishes instantly from the altar and appears safely in her hand. She believes she holds the artifact, yet the real scroll never left the altar. With a command, he signals Yurnal to end the game. She obeys, standing before the altar, fingers glowing as the real scroll materializes through information transfer magic, her success complete. Calem allows himself a satisfied smile, watching the chaos he orchestrated unfold flawlessly. Night settles over the Bartanen estate, and the moment the game officially ends, the crowd erupts into thunderous applause. The sound rolls like waves beneath the starlit sky, echoing off marble pillars and gilded balconies. Calem stands amid it calmly, merely inclining his head in acknowledgement, his expression composed as ever. Professor Malini congratulates him with a satisfied smile, praising the victory and gently reminding him that it's time for them to depart. Calem answers politely, returning the courtesy, remarking that today truly was wonderful. He wishes her well, his tone respectful and measured, just enough warmth to remain proper, never enough to invite suspicion. Nearby, Abyssin is practically vibrating with excitement. He waves his arms wildly, declaring that Calem is incredible, that he could not even clear a single round himself. His eyes shine as he looks up at Calem, hopeful and earnest, asking if they can play together once his legs are fully healed. Calem smiles softly, asking if Abyssin has played this maze game before. Abyssin answers without hesitation, proudly explaining that the maze is his father's creation. Originally designed as a training tool for him, the professors, he adds with childish pride, had practically begged to borrow it for lessons. Calem listens quietly, absorbing more than just the words. What kind of life does a child live when a labyrinth becomes a toy? Clarence steps in, his voice calm but heavy. He admits that their family's circumstances are unusual. There's a reason he treasures Abyssin so deeply. 12 years ago, the Bartanen family was not spared when disaster erupted within the labyrinth. That day, death swept through their bloodline. Funerals followed one after another, grief sinking into every quarter of the mansion. In that suffocating darkness, when despair seemed endless, only one person remained cheerful, a 6-year-old Abyssin. He had not understood the meaning of death, not yet. But his innocent laughter had pulled the family back from the brink. The sadness never vanished entirely, Clarence admits, but it became bearable. He is tired of losing family, tired of watching names disappear. Saving Abyssin, he says quietly, was the same as saving the entire Bartanen family. He strokes Abyssin's head, gratitude clear in his eyes as he thanks Calum and Yurnal once more. He says there is nothing more to add, then turns to leave. Edward arrives before the moment can settle. He suggests they move elsewhere. There's still gifts to present, rewards to distribute. Delaying any longer would be impolite. They relocate to a lavish chamber bathed in warm light. Edward sits at the head of a long table while Calum and Yurnal take seats opposite him. Edward admits frankly that no gift could ever match their merit. Worse still, overly extravagant rewards might become poison for adventurers destined to explore deeper levels of the labyrinth. Instead, he has prepared what he believes to be the most practical and appropriate items for them at this stage. Yurnal's eyes sparkle as the boxes are opened. Calum examines the contents calmly. Everything bears the unmistakable stamp of the Bartanen style, refined, powerful, and deliberate. Each item has been graded and certified by the School of Magic. A ring rests on red velvet, accompanied by an official guarantee. It is a transcription ring, a magic tool that grants access to first-level practical magic without consuming spell slots. It allows the wearer to transcribe text directly into a memory book. Any text. Calum's lips curve upward faintly. With this, he can copy scrolls freely. The blank scroll he obtained earlier finally has a purpose. Yurnal opens her own box, hands trembling. Inside are wrist guards perfectly fitted. She slips them on immediately, unable to hide her delight. Crossbow bracers, magic-grade equipment. They grant the Sentinel shift skill, enabling magic arrows to be fired through a crossbow. She can hardly put them down. Calum accepts his gifts solemnly, promising to make full use of them. Edward then pushes a check across the table. 200,000 gold coins. The victory bonus, 5 times the estimated value of the items they wagered. Yurnal inhales sharply, her fingers shaking as she asks just how valuable the pledged items were. Calum answers calmly, for ordinary people, it's enough to make one's hands tremble. Edward smiles faintly, adding that he has one final gift to offer, his handshake. In Sohain, he says, that is the most expensive thing he can give. Calum meets his gaze and accepts, gripping Edward's hand firmly. If you ever encounter difficulties, Edward says, do not hesitate to come to me. Night deepens as Calum and Yurnal leave the estate side by side, their footsteps echoing softly. As they walk, Isil asks Calum for a moment of his time. Soundproofing magic activates, sealing the space around them. Isil speaks without preamble, saying that what she's about to share is known to no one else. He once asked her why she cooperated with the possessed society of the Magic Academy. Calum asks, was not it simply to gain information about the deep labyrinth? She answers honestly yes, but more precisely, what she wants is to go the deepest level. Her eyes turn cold, killing intent flaring like a blade drawn halfway from its sheath. She states his goal plainly, to kill the owner of the maze hidden within the library. Isil's talent was nurtured by her grandfather, supported without restraint. The possessed society taught her how to bind spellbooks, granting her access to knowledge others could never touch. With her innate talent, powerful family backing, and extraordinary information sources, she had been destined to become Sohan's greatest mage. Until 12 years ago, hell descended without warning. Flames tore through the sky. The city burned. Her father grabbed her shoulders, shouting for her to take her siblings to the teleporter. Izel demanded answers, terror flooding her voice, but there was no time. Claws pierced her grandfather's chest before her eyes. She fell hard to the ground, staring in horror as her grandfather blocked the portal alone. A black shadow rose amid the flames, wielding a giant sword glowing with ominous red light. In a single strike, her grandfather was pierced through. With his last breath, he roared for them to run. The maze exploded. Blood sprayed across the stone. His head was severed, his body nailed to the wall by the massive blade. Through the fading light of the portal, Isil witnessed everything. He told her to live, to take care of her siblings. She reached out, screaming, grasping at nothing as the light swallowed them whole. For years, guilt consumed her. Day and night, it gnawed at her sanity. She believed it was because she had come into contact with a possessed person that monsters from the abyss had followed her, but she learned the truth. The possessor was not the culprit. The master of the maze was. Yerno listens silently as Izel explains that everyone blames the possessed because mazes generate wealth. No one wants to give that up. No one thinks of killing the maze owner to solve the root of the problem. Even her father chose profit over justice. Even Enver's society abandoned the idea, claiming the maze master could not be defeated. No one supported her dream. No one, except the society that continued feeding her information, claiming to support her family's revenge. Caleb begins to think what benefit do they gain by providing such knowledge. Izel answers bitterly. They said they supported her revenge, but she realizes now it was exploitation. Guilt as an experiment, Caleb's eyes sharpen. If she was truly that important, a key chess piece, why send her into depths where death was certain? Would not training her properly, backed by the Bartanen family, be far more profitable? Izel exhales slowly. The truth settles heavily between them. They wanted to use her, and if the master of the maze is killed, the possessed can finally go home.